All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for waiting patiently, and thank you for joining me today. We have more topics to discuss, of course. I hope everybody's doing well today. Quite the stream yesterday. It was a long one, nearly 4 hours. Not the longest, certainly not, but you know, it's interesting when there's big news that comes out because when big news comes out, I'm usually here like as soon as it comes out. It's rare that I ever am late to it. Sometimes, I guess on rare occasion, I'm a little bit late to it, but it's always interesting to kind of, I don't know, see what the conversations have turned into during, I guess, my time not paying attention to it. And I've definitely come across some pretty fascinating conversations, some interesting opinions, of course. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is we are going to continue the discussion from yesterday to a certain extent. It's going to be more focused. It's going to be more focused on single player games, but obviously we're going to talk about PlayStation Studios in general. I feel like I did say a lot yesterday, but I also felt like just because, again, the nature of when this news drops, when I put up a stream, me as well as everybody else, you kind of just hit the ground running. And now that the dust has settled a little bit, I do want to talk a little bit more in depth. Hopefully, you guys are okay with that. But that's not all we're going to be discussing today. The PlayStation Plus lineup for March has been revealed by Sony. We're talking about that. I have an interesting article here that was written up by Push Square that I want to read with you guys and just kind of react to and give my opinion on. They did basically their own opinion piece, or they're labeling it a reaction piece, saying the problem with PlayStation right now. So I figured it would be interesting to kind of read this and see what they have to say. We're also going to be talking about the PlayStation Portal. Sony has officially come out and talked once again about this device, which you seemingly still cannot buy anywhere, based off of my understanding, except from scalpers, which is pretty annoying. But it does seem like this device is still continuing to do better than Sony expected. We're talking a little bit more about Helldivers 2. We have another update regarding that. I have a couple of bonus topics that, if time permits, which I think it will today, we're talking a little bit about the Switch 2 and what's going on over there. We're talking a little bit about a famous Call of Duty developer that recently formed a new studio that we might want to pay attention to. And I did tell you guys that if we have another update on Battlefield, I will tell you guys about that, let you know what the update is, so we have that as well. So before we dive into this discussion and into the conversations, do me a favor, hit the like button. If you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the streams, hitting that like button not only lets me know you enjoy it, but it helps with YouTube's algorithm and it helps us continue to grow the community. If you are somebody who's watching the stream after the fact, make sure you take advantage of the timestamps that Devil Shooter does. He does a great job with them. There are 3 ways you can support me directly. Become a channel member. You gain access to some exclusive perks. One of those perks is the Members Lounge. It's basically an exclusive stream that I do multiple times a week, where it's just me and the members pretty much lounging, hanging out, doing who knows what. Consider becoming a channel member for that, as among other perks. If you're already a channel member, please consider gifting memberships. It's a big thing we do here on the channel. It helps the community out. It gets people kind of, more engaged, gives them a taste, I guess you could say, of having the full membership, but it helps support me directly. And last but not least, please consider donating a super chat, ask a question, give an opinion, make a statement, anything in between. It all helps a lot. So a big shout out and a big thank you to everybody who supports me and the content directly. I'm going to dive in starting with the PlayStation Plus games. I want to get this topic out of the way because it's a smaller one. So this is on the PlayStation blog. The PlayStation Plus monthly games for Essential for March 2024: EA Sports F1 23, Sifu, Hello Neighbor 2, and Destiny 2: The Witch Queen. All of these games are available on both PS5 and PS4. So that is the lineup. I don't I don't know. This seems like a pretty okay lineup, I guess. I mean, for me, the standout game has to be Sifu. If you haven't played Sifu, and you are subscribed to PlayStation Plus, I highly recommend giving it a try. It's not the easiest game in the world, but it's a very satisfying game, very fun game as well once you get the hang of it. So, highly recommend that. Can't speak to Hello Neighbor 2, and I can't speak to F123, but I guess some people will maybe be picking or downloading Destiny 2: The Witch Queen. But there you go. That's your PlayStation Plus Essential lineup for March 2024. But I have an article here. This is another report that I believe I briefly mentioned this in our stream yesterday, but I want to make sure to cover it here, with just more focus. So it says here, following yesterday's news of mass PlayStation layoffs, details are emerging of how the redundancies impact individual first-party developers. According to two separate reports, Horizon and Killzone Studio Guerrilla Games has lost 10% of its employees, whereas Media Molecule apparently narrowly escaped a full studio closure. According to journalist Ethan Gatch, he had heard from a source last December that Sony was considering closing down both London Studio as well as Media Molecule. The latter was speculated to be a candidate for closure after losing its co-founder and going through a round of layoffs. However, it was London Studio that ended up on the chopping block, ultimately less than a week after outgoing boss Jim Ryan posed with its employees during a farewell gathering, which is incredibly awkward and unfortunate. Gatch says that none of the dozens of employees that he reached out to saw yesterday's announcement coming, which was made by none other than Jim Ryan himself. Dutch news outlet AD.NL reports that Guerrilla Games has lost 10% of its workforce. Headquartered in Amsterdam, Netherlands, Guerrilla was acquired by Sony in 2005 and went on to produce the Killzone series. Killzone, however, has not seen a new entry since 2013, but Guerrilla has found success with the Horizon series. So, yeah, just a bit of a follow-up to some of the information in the news from yesterday. Again, I did kind of mention that it was reported Guerrilla Games lost 10% of their total workforce, which, I mean, it's definitely not a small percentage, but you have to assume that those who were laid off at Guerrilla Games were non-essential, at the very least. But to me, what's interesting about this report is that apparently it wasn't just London Studio that was up for consideration when it comes to studio closure. I do wonder what exactly stopped Sony from shutting down Media Molecule. If I had to guess, whatever Media Molecule pitched as their new game, and that's important to, I guess, emphasize here, is that Media Molecule is a proven studio and that they do know how to make games, obviously, and they know how to ship games, right? To whereas it's not that London Studio isn't proven in that area. London Studio is. They've shipped many games. But in terms of creating, like, I guess you could say, I don't know if you want to call them AAA games, but I guess we will just call them AAA games. Creating AAA games that are going to be able to likely reach the finish line. Media Molecule has proven that. I feel like London Studio hasn't really done that in recent memory. I think it's been many, many years since they made what we would consider a traditional AAA video game and shipped it. And it's worth noting that reports are also indicating that London Studio's live service fantasy game that they were creating was making abysmal progress. I think a quote that came out of it is apparently London Studio, this game they were working on wasn't going to see the light of day anytime soon. So it just seems like Sony made the decision that, look, we're not going to wait like 6 or 7 years for this live service game to come together. We're just going to end it now. To whereas when I look at Media Molecule, we do know that they started work recently on a new AAA project, on a new game. I have to assume that whatever it is they pitched to Sony saved the studio. That's the only thing that makes logical sense to me. I know people think that Sony wouldn't shut down Media Molecule because they're a BAFTA winner, but when we're talking about business here, to be honest, I don't think that's going to save a studio. When it comes to the bottom line, it might make them hesitate, and sure, maybe it did do that for Media Molecule, but I have to assume it came down to them pitching a game. This is the game we want to make now, after what we did with Dreams, something more traditional, I would assume, something more in line with just a regular game, so maybe some kind of platformer potentially. And this could be what made Sony go, you know what? Okay, yeah, we could use that. And if you guys can be efficient and hit your milestones, this can work. And at least I hope that's the situation, because it would have been really bad. I mean, it already is bad, but it would have been like significantly worse, in my opinion, if we saw a situation where it's like, okay, we're shutting down London Studio and canceling their game, and we're also shutting down Media Molecule. If Media Molecule fails to hit their milestones, however, with this new game they're making, they could be in trouble. They do have a lot of pressure on them now, but hopefully they can get it together and kind of get back to the basics, I guess you could say, of just make a fun game for PlayStation. You guys can do that, right? I believe Media Molecule can do that. So just wanted to give you that kind of follow-up report, something that came out yesterday that I didn't really cover. Jack, you're saying Media Molecule has just been given more time to course correct. That doesn't mean that they will be fine going forward. That's true. They did lose their founder. They did suffer layoffs. They could still struggle going forward. There's no guarantee, but I'll remain optimistic for now. I do think that Media Molecule, what they have to do is they just need to get back to the basics. They're the creators of Little Big Planet. They've proven they made that game. What's the name of that game? It was a PS Vita game. I can't recall. I'm going to have to wait for somebody in the chat to bring it up. I know somebody knows what game I'm talking. Not Astro, no. Tearaway. Thank you, AA. Yeah. So they made that game Tearaway, which, based off my understanding, was a pretty solid game, pretty good game overall. So I guess I'm just pointing that out because, yeah, Media Molecule has proven like they know just how to make, for all intents and purposes, just like regular video games. They tried to do something very different with Dreams, and I applaud them for that. And Dreams, unfortunately, I think just wasn't supported in the way that it should have been. I think Dreams could have been much more successful than it ended up being, but nonetheless, I think that's what will save that studio. It's just going back to the basics. Make a video game that's very fun, that is easy to get behind, and support, and that has the potential to sell a little bit, right? And I think that'll save that studio. But I want to move on to this article that I didn't read yet, but the headline certainly caught my attention. This was written up by Sammy Barker over on Push Square. The title reads, Reaction, the Problem with PlayStation Right Now. PlayStation is in a precarious position. It's imperative we don't overreact. The global economy is, for want of a better word, in the gutter right now. And it's sad to see layoffs occurring across a spectrum of industries, not just gaming. But in the aftermath of a disappointing earnings report and an enormous downsizing operation earlier this week, we must take stock of the situation as it stands. Sony's division is, in some aspects, firing on all cylinders. Sony is raking in record revenue, and while it's had to scale back its hardware sales targets, its current goal of 21 million units in the current fiscal year is no slouch. It would be easy to overreact and paint PlayStation as a failing business, but that does not reflect reality. There's a lot of good among the bad. The division's big problem is that it's spending almost as much as it's making. In its most recent financial report, it registered record-breaking revenue of $10.2 billion, only to turn a profit of just $608 million. The optimistic viewpoint here is that it's a profitable business overall, but with margins as razor-thin as this, the firm is effectively one misstep away from plunging itself into the red, and that is not healthy. This is why we are seeing seismic changes across the business, many of which have been poorly received by fans. The firm's push for successful live service games could guarantee ongoing revenue, although it's important to remember that the cost associated with maintaining these titles is also high. Nevertheless, companies like Helldivers are making bigger profits than PlayStation right now. The division is also trying to expand beyond the boundaries of its own ecosystem, releasing software on PC and making plans to expand to mobile. The reality is that while the costs associated with creating blockbuster games like God of War and The Last of Us have dramatically increased, the size of the console install base has not. PS5 is unlikely to sell more units overall than PS4, for example. This is one reason why we've seen the prices of software increase from $59.99 to $69.99, because software is simply more expensive to make but selling to roughly the same audience as it always has. As the scale and quality of games increases, so too do development budgets. To the most casual observers, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is an iterative sequel, but leaked documents from Insomniac Games reveal it cost an eye-watering $300 million to make. That sum of money is simply unsustainable. The sequel may have gone on to sell 10 million copies, so the gamble has ultimately paid off, but Spider-Man is about as bankable as an intellectual property can be. The risks are much higher when it comes to less recognizable names like Days Gone. You may love that game, but it's easy to see why Sony is having to think really hard about what it funds. Herman Hulst, the head of PlayStation Studios, hinted at these problems in the company's statement about its recent layoffs. Delivering the immersive, narrative-driven stories that PlayStation Studios is known for at the quality bar that we aspire to requires a re-evaluation of how we operate. In other words, these games are too expensive and take too long to make. But here's the rub. PlayStation has bet its entire first-party business on high-budget, cinematic, single-player games, and now it's struggling to make the economics of it work. The fan base is resolute. This is the software it wants, but the reality is that it's going to take teams several years and hundreds of million dollars to deliver them to the quality that's expected. The outlook is a bit bleak then. Sony may look to creating smaller campaigns, which recycle assets, similar to Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, for example. We fully expect a shorter God of War campaign focusing on Atreus in the near future, and we honestly wouldn't be surprised if Naughty Dog's cooked up something similar for The Last of Us as well. These could bridge the gap between the big blockbusters. The platform holder may also be looking at Helldivers 2's recent success and realizing that there may be more money to be made by bringing games to PC quicker, but there's a delicate balancing act to be found here. This could have an impact on PlayStation hardware sales, and so it's going to need to be certain the advantages outweigh the negatives. There'll be no doubt commenters on Push Square who plead for a return to lower profile software like Concrete Genie and Gravity Rush. I don't know why I said it like that. Gravity Rush 2. But as much as we adore these titles, we simply have to acknowledge the fact that they don't sell in the quantities required to move the needle. Yes, their budgets are lower, but it's worth remembering the cost of creating all games is increasing anyway. As always, with the video game industry, there'll be much hand-wringing and overreaction. Sony will be fine. And while its financials are disappointing, it's worth repeating that it's making record-breaking revenue and therefore just needs to tidy up its margins. That's not an easy feat, and we don't envy the person responsible for turning it around, but it is possible. PlayStation's biggest issue is that it's cultivated a fan base that expects the biggest and best productions. And that may not be sustainable moving forwards. Exactly how it navigates this very unique problem and finds ways to speed up development and lower costs without sacrificing quality is a conundrum of the highest order. Nevertheless, it's one it's going to have to overcome. So, just wanted to read this because I thought that was that was my first time reading it, but I had a good feeling it was going to be an interesting read, and I think it was well said. Jake Skew 27. Jake Skew doing what he does every stream, basically dropping a membership gift. Jake, thank you for getting us started today, man. I really appreciate that support.
Thank you.
Good stuff, my friend.
Appreciate it.
And so what I appreciate about this article from Push Square is it's a very balanced article. It's not jumping to any extreme conclusions like we're seeing all over the internet. It's not a doom and gloom article saying, well, I guess this is it for Sony and for PlayStation as we know it. But it's also not being defensive. It's, just pointing to the very clear problems that Sony is facing. And, it concludes in a way that I think makes the most sense, where while we can think of our own solutions, it is uniquely Sony's problem that whoever they choose to hire as the next CEO is going to have to either come up with their own version of those solutions or a different solution entirely, but more importantly, implement it and execute on it in a way that works. It's one thing to think up a solution. It's another thing to put it into practice and execute on it. And Josh, you're saying that's exactly what I said yesterday. I know, man. I know. Again, it's all a matter of the dust kind of settling. This makes me want to talk specifically about PlayStation's single player games, but the conversation is not going to be exclusively about their future single player games and how they handle them going forward. It's also going to talk about the live service games. I feel like we have no choice but to also include this in the conversation because, well, Sony, I believe, has made it very clear that they are taking a major step back from their live service push. However, that is not to be mistaken with Sony is done with live service games and they are no longer pursuing them. There is a difference here. And I think when we look at their single player games, I think it's actually the opposite. I think Sony is now realizing that it turns out making live service games is also expensive and also comes with its own level of risk that maybe we didn't fully anticipate. Maybe that level of risk also trickles down all the way into the studios themselves, where maybe something Sony didn't necessarily anticipate, where some of the development teams, not just struggling, but maybe feeling a bit of frustration in that we don't really want to make these kind of games. And so when all this culminates, I think it results in exactly what we're seeing now. Sony making it clear that, hey, we're not abandoning live service. It's going to have to be a part of PlayStation as well as PlayStation Studios to a certain extent. It's necessary. But maybe we are going to just kind of take a step back and redirect ourselves once again towards what we do best, what we are known for, what frankly has worked for us. It's not perfect. We know that right now, as this article and as we continue to talk about. We know that Sony's situation with their single player games is not in the healthiest spot it could be, but it's not nearly as dire as I think some people are thinking it is. And so the idea that Sony says, you know what, we have a good thing here with our single player. We need to course correct. We need to recalibrate. We need to get this to the healthiest spot it can be, because let's face it, this is what makes PlayStation, not just the AAA big budget single player games, but just the single player experiences across the board, whether they be AAA, AA, smaller scale. It is what PlayStation is known for, because let's just be honest, man, like that's what they've done over the years. That is what they have been known for, and that is what has attracted the customer base that they currently have. Multiplayer has been a part of that. But think about it. Has multiplayer ever been the true priority for Sony? No. It's been a secondary, more supplementary thing, and it has worked. It can work. It's just that the multiplayer landscape itself has also changed. In the same way that game development budgets have changed, so too has the actual multiplayer landscape. Gone are the days of making just regular, standalone multiplayer experiences. That just doesn't exist. A multiplayer game now is created with the intention of this game's going to have to live for at least like 5 to 8 years, right? And get constant support. So, yeah. We have Random Jabroni here with a super chat. Thank you so much for that, buddy. You're saying, I believe Helldivers 2 would have happened regardless of Sony's live service strategy push or not. And I think you are correct. I think you're correct, Random Jabroni. Helldivers 2 was in development for 8 years, which means it began development, I assume, in earnest after Helldivers 1 shipped. And I'm also assuming the reason why it took so long is because somewhere along the way, they did decide that they wanted to create a AAA game. And yes, for those wondering, Helldivers 2 is a AAA game. At the bare minute, listen, we have to understand that we have to think about what it means to be AAA. What is the definition of a AAA game? I mean, there are many different factors that we can look at to identify a AAA game, but the most important and the most logical is the size of the development team. Somebody might say the budget of a game. Well, that's just it. What is the most expensive part of game development? The development teams, right? The employees, paying the developers' salaries. So when you consider that Helldivers 2 was made by a team of 100 developers, that does qualify as AAA. And I'll be honest with you, when I play the game, it feels AAA. It does. It feels very good. It feels like there's a lot that went into it. Like, even when it comes to the animation work, it's like this animation work is top notch. So it does qualify as a AAA game, but it is being sold for $40. So I think, Helldivers 2 does serve as an example during a very volatile time that you can make it work. Clearly, this game was a success. Clearly, this game sold enough to justify that 8-year development cycle. Now, is every game going to do what Helldivers 2 did? No. That's the unfortunate reality. No. But it's clear that it can happen. It's clear that what they succeeded with in Helldivers 2 is going so far beyond their minimum expectations. Makes you question, what is the minimal expectation for a game like Helldivers 2? But I get what you're saying, Random Jabroni. You're basically pointing out that Sony is going to continue, or was always going to do, some type of multiplayer game or games outside of their live service push. I think you are correct with that. I do think that Naughty Dog had every intention of creating a Factions follow-up. They knew that that's what the fans wanted. They knew, and they have known the whole time, that there are still people playing Factions 1 on PS4. They knew that it would be kind of a big deal when they announced that The Last of Us Part 2 was not going to ship with Factions 2. But they also knew that everybody would be okay with that, because they're going to make it known that, hey, we're making a standalone Factions game. So when you remove the live service aspect, I fully believe we would have gotten Factions 2 with The Last of Us Part 2, or at the very least as a free update for The Last of Us Part 2, maybe like a year later or something, to keep people playing, to push more sales of the game. It was the live service aspect where everything changed. And unfortunately, it was the undoing of whatever that Factions mode was supposed to be. And it led to its ultimate demise, which we could see return one day in the form of just a regular Factions mode, possibly, hopefully. But I think you're right, Random Jabroni. Sony was going to continue to do some type of multiplayer no matter what, regardless of the live service push. I just think it's clear by now that the live service push, it just went over the edge, man. They went in too fast, They put the pedal to the metal and they veered off course, and I think they crashed. I think that's obvious. At least it should be. Naughty Dog wanted a multiplayer, not a game as a service. I agree. Dreadful83, third time super chatting. Thank you for that, Dreadful. You're saying, are you ready to be Rebirth? It's going to be hard trying to play this game and be a father and husband. So little time. Yeah, I hear you, man. I just saw the platinum requirements for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I have to tell you, I'm not sure that I'm going to platinum this game. It's like 150 to 200 hour minimum requirement to platinum Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and you have to beat the game on hard. But apparently the most difficult trophy is you have to complete, I guess there's certain like challenge mode missions or something, or arena missions of some kind. I guess they're like boss battles. You have to complete them in like brutal or extreme, I don't know if it's called extreme difficulty, but the highest difficulty level that's beyond hard. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. This seems kind of brutal. And on Power Picks, they rate the platinum difficulty a 7.5 out of 10. So I think what I'm going to do for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just focus on playing the game naturally. I'm not going to look at the trophies, and I'm just going to enjoy the experience and try to do everything that I want to do. And if I reach a point where I'm like, okay, I'm totally satisfied now, I'm ready to put this game down, I've done everything in this game that I want to do, I will look at the trophy list, and if it's clear that I only have a couple of trophies to get and unlock to get the platinum, then I'll probably say, okay, I'll put some extra effort in just so I can get that platinum. But if I do everything in the game that I want to do naturally, and then I check the trophy list and it's like, you need like 30 trophies or like 25 plus trophies, and some of them are the hardest in the game, I don't know that I'm going to want to force myself to just keep playing it just to do that. It depends. It depends. It's easy to say that now because I'm not playing it, but I'll be sure to update you guys. Yeah, Irfan, you're saying, dude, trust me, it'll be very hard. Man. Another game that's going to test my skill level. Where's Boss? He's actually sleeping in the other room on the sofa. I didn't want to bother him. So I will definitely update you guys during my journey while I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Let you know how I'll obviously give you like my impressions, maybe do a review of it at some point, but just talk to you about it as I'm playing it. And I'm sure that trophies will absolutely at some point be a part of that discussion. So yeah, it's going to be tough, man. Got to balance out life with playing games. Stream it in the members lounge. I'll think about it. Nick Taylor, member for 9 months. Thank you for that, man. You're saying, I remember when MBG wasn't interested in FF7 Remake. Yeah, I remember that too. And here we are. We've come such a long way. We have. It makes me wonder if I never did decide to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. I guess Final Fantasy VII Rebirth wouldn't be... I don't know, wouldn't be nearly as relevant in the conversations I've been having. MBG, why are younger kids so aggressive on online games with trash talk? I don't know, dude. Maybe it's like an outlet for them to like misbehave. I don't know. It is quite frightening. I think it's also the anonymity of it. I think the fact that you're basically anonymous, it means you can do what you want, consequence free, or so we think. But yeah, dude, the MW2 days on the PS3 and 360. Oh man. Oh man. And they weren't just kids either. Come on. They're not just kids. They're like teenagers, some adults in there too. It's wild. It's wild. But the reason why I'm starting off this single player conversation about PlayStation, like the future of their single player games, the reason why I'm starting off this conversation by acknowledging the live service is because I just think we need to look at this holistically. In the past 6 to 8 months, we have seen nothing but a negative outcome, except for one thing when it comes to multiplayer and live service for Sony, and that is Helldivers 2. And as Random Jabroni pointed out, Helldivers 2, I don't think Helldivers 2 was ever meant to be part of this aggressive live service push. I think it was kind of thrown in there like, oh, well, we already have this in development, so we'll just kind of make it part of it. But it's pretty clear that Sony wasn't looking at Helldivers 2 as this is going to be like the $1 billion, annual, or not annual, but like quarterly revenue raking in the microtransaction money. That's not what Helldivers 2 was supposed to be, nor is that's not what it is. And I don't think it's ever going to be that. At least it seems unlikely that it will ever turn into that. So putting Helldivers 2 aside, think about everything that has occurred with Sony's live service push. Well, they have a showcase where they say, hey, check out Concord, check out Fair Games, check out Marathon. And to be honest, the results were pitiful. People just weren't interested. They're like, what is this? And Sony didn't even bother answering that question. They still haven't shown gameplay of any of these games. After that, we hear that Deviation Games basically fell apart. Sony canceled whatever game they were working on, whatever live service game they were working on with Deviation Games. They lost like their entire staff. And then after that, we hear that there are potentially problems with the Last of Us multiplayer game. And then we end up finding out that it gets canceled and that Naughty Dog didn't want to convert into a live service studio. And then we find out that Bungie's having problems. Seems that Bungie was a bad purchase for Sony because, based off of our understanding, and again, our understanding is relatively limited, but based off of our understanding, it seems like Bungie had the task of going around each PlayStation studio and giving the green light or the red light for all of their live service games, and they seemingly gave Naughty Dog the red light, and we reached a point where The Last of Us multiplayer gets canceled, and Bungie is basically collapsing to a certain extent because they're struggling to properly manage their own game in their own studios. And then to top it all off, well, actually, this isn't even the final thing. Not too long after that, we hear that apparently this Insomniac multiplayer game was apparently canceled as well, where they were making some kind of GTA Online meets Spider-Man live service game, and it just didn't work, and they canceled it. So just so many canceled projects, specifically from their bigger studios, right? And then we get to where we are now, where again, Sony is making it clear that, yeah, we're still pursuing live service, but we're not going to say much about it. And so we see the layoffs, London Studios game, another live service game underneath the PlayStation Studios banner, canceled. Twisted Metal, which was underneath Fire Sprite, another PlayStation Studios live service game, canceled. Apparently, the Horizon game is safe, but I think one of the only reasons the Horizon multiplayer game is safe is because they partnered with NCSoft. And I think that partnership has essentially made it so that, okay, we have an external partner now to help us with this. What's going to happen to Concord and Firewalk? I wish I could tell you. What's going to happen to Fair Games and Haven? I wish I could tell you. But what I can tell you is that I specifically remember saying this, and I want to bring it up because, and it's not to say, oh, I was right again. It's not about that. Because honestly, I'm sad to be right about this. But I remember it was either in November or December. I think it was not the most recent earnings report. The most recent earnings report happened just a couple of weeks ago. It was the one prior. And let me know if you guys remember this. Hiroki Totoki, Sony, had to tell the shareholders, we have to delay half of our live service games. Do you guys remember that? They said, we're going to delay half of our projects. They need more time. One of the things I remember saying very specifically is, guys, I'm pretty sure, if not all of them, most of those projects will get canceled. And I specifically said that because something about it to me just sounded a little bit ominous, right? Where it's like, what projects are you referring to exactly? You spent the past couple years kind of hyping up this live service push, and you have almost nothing to show for it. And now you're saying that half of those projects are getting delayed, and we don't even know what these projects are. You haven't shown anything of them, and they're just giving minimal detail. And I just remember specifically saying that, don't be surprised if these games end up getting canceled. And I think that is exactly what has happened. All of the games I just listed, I think those were the games that Sony was talking about. Now, did Sony know at that time that they were going to get canceled? Maybe they didn't know for sure. Maybe they were just still trying to figure out how many should we cancel, how many should we keep going. Maybe there was some truth to it, but I don't know, man. Something to me just felt like, dude, this is starting to look like it's starting to look like it's falling apart, basically. And so this leads me into, well, what does this have to do with single player? Isn't single player the reason why Sony is in this situation? Isn't single player the problem for PlayStation right now? No. I need to make this as clear as I possibly can for people listening, because unfortunately, some people are under the impression and under the belief that Sony's problem right now is single player games. That is not their problem. Sony's problem right now are the budgets of their single player games. We need to separate those two things, because when somebody makes a claim or has a belief that, well, Sony's problem is their single player games, it heavily implies that the solution is they should stop making single player games, or that making single player games is a mistake and too risky. No. Here's the reality of the video game industry in 2024. Making a video game is risky. That is the reality of the video game industry in the year 2024. This is where we are. There's no avoiding that. The risk is universal. Obviously, there are ways to mitigate that risk. And what I want to emphasize is that what Sony is going to put in effect in the coming months and years is that mitigation. They are going to do everything they can within reason to ensure that these budgets do not stay where they are or get any higher than they currently are. And the only time they will be okay with it is if they can guarantee it's justified. If there is no guarantee, then they will have to find another solution and a workaround. And one of the things that this Push Square article said, and I think, again, it was worded very well, is that this is a unique problem to Sony. While it is true that it is risky to make video games right now, like of any kind, that is true. Sony does find themselves in a specifically unique position with the biggest AAA games. Boycott activity, you're saying, MEG, just last week you were excited for Concord. Well, to be fair, I was trying to be excited for Concord, and it's not to say that I am not excited for it, but I can't lie to you, and I got to be honest and just let you know that, dude, after seeing like what just happened and knowing that so many games are getting canceled, and especially knowing that Sony is basically backing off of this aggressive live service push, my confidence in games like Concord and Fair Games is the lowest it's ever been. And I don't think anybody could blame me. I would love to be wrong, dude. I would love to have my confidence boosted and be like, oh my God, this actually looks amazing. But right now, truthfully, I'm feeling like Sony made a huge mistake with this live service. I know a lot of people are feeling very vindicated right now. There are a lot of people, and I've seen plenty of people on my channel, but not just on my channel, but all over the internet, and a lot of PlayStation fans saying, like, this is a huge mistake. Like, Sony, stop. Jim Ryan, stop. This is a mistake. And I think it's safe to say, or relatively safe to say, that I think those people were right. I'm not sure how anybody could look at where we are now with Sony's live service games and the studios that were tasked with making those live service games. I'm not sure how anybody could look at the current situation and say, I think this is good, or I think it's okay and it worked out. I just don't understand how anybody could see that. But when it comes to the single player side of things, here's the truth for Sony's single player. The future's still very bright. It is. But the unique problem that Sony has is, once again, exactly what that Push Square article pointed out, and that is that the fan base has been conditioned by Sony themselves. We have been conditioned to expect the very best and the biggest in the AAA space. And it has led to, I guess, this situation that Sony finds themselves in, where obviously Sony is not going to turn to their player base and say, sorry guys, we cannot give you the biggest and the best. They are not going to do that. It doesn't mean that they won't make changes, though. We should look at the Insomniac leaks, and we should pay attention to the fact that Sony is, at least internally, experimenting with potentially different models. What if we split Spider-Man 3 into 2 parts? Now, rest assured, Sony's seemingly not going to do that, because when you do the math, it turns out it's actually not. It isn't going to yield the best results for them. And it's also true that a lot of people, when they heard that, were like, whoa, I don't know about that one. But what you can see is that Sony was not unaware of this. Sony clearly became aware of, like, we need to figure this out, because the last thing I think Sony wants to do is reduce the quality of their games. But it might be that, if not reducing the quality of your games, you may have to reduce the overall size. And we talked about this extensively yesterday, but I'm feeling optimistic about Sony's single player future because I don't see why it has to be so extreme. And I think that Sony, to be completely honest here, I don't think Sony should be afraid to do what is necessary to rebalance and recalibrate their AAA game production. They should not be afraid of their own audience and their own fan base. And I say this because if that is something that stops Sony from, doing what needs to be done, I think it's just like that would, to me, that would just paint a very negative picture of the fan base, because it's like the fan base, I think, while I can't speak for the entirety of it, the fan base wants to see PlayStation do well and be in a healthy position and not, hitting these walls like this. And this is why we brought up Ghost of Tsushima yesterday. It's very interesting. Very interesting how, Ghost of Tsushima seems to serve as this type of answer, in a way, to Sony's problem, where on one hand, it is a big game. It's a game with a lot of content. It's, I would say, a very well-playing game, a very well-produced game. But on the other hand, it's not the most highly produced game. There are some imperfections. And if you really try to scrutinize the game hard enough, you can find those imperfections. To whereas it would be harder, certainly much harder, to find those same imperfections in maybe titles like The Last of Us Part 2 or God of War Ragnarok, right? But we do know that the budget of Ghost of Tsushima was significantly lower than that of these other games I just listed. But to me, that is the answer. We can have a balance where, okay, maybe there are some highly hyper-specific, realistic details missing. But it's okay, because it still looks great, and you won't even notice it either way. And you know what? We didn't have to spend an extra $10 million on that. So we don't have to add that unnecessary risk. We can just still make the game basically exactly what it should be. If this is what needs to happen, I'm all for it, because I would much rather see Sony find a healthy balance with their AAA games than to see them run into one of the worst problems that they possibly could as a business, which is we're losing money on these games now, and we're beginning to sink. You're saying they need to show the games first? That's true, yeah. Well, something else that people have been pointing out is maybe the answer is these more, more of these in-between standalone titles, these $50 titles that are reusing assets, that are, not as content filled, that are maybe half the size, scale, and scope of, the full AAA version. And I agree. I think that is absolutely something Sony needs to pursue more aggressively, because I think this will make players very happy across the board. We will get more games more frequently, but they will have, generally speaking, the same level of quality, but they'll just be shorter experiences. That, to me, is also another very viable and also practical option that we've already seen Sony kind of lean into. And maybe that could be what allows some of these studios anyway to continue to produce like the biggest games. It's just we have to make sure that there's something you guys put out in between. And of course, there's always the conversation of remasters and remakes. I've been seeing a lot of people say that we're going to see less new IP. We're going to see more remasters, more remakes. Listen, when it comes to the new IP, I think people need to pump the brakes a little bit on this. Okay. This is where I'm beginning to see some of the fear mongering start to take place, where it's like, okay, look, if you evaluate PlayStation Studios, there's multiple new IP, and I'm talking AAA IP in development. There's no denying that doing new IP is very risky, more so than ever before, especially if it's AAA. There's no denying that there's less incentive than ever before to do new IP. But Sony is still working on new IP. Sony Santa Monica has a new AAA IP in development. Naughty Dog has a new IP in development. Sony Bend has a new AAA IP in development. Sony just announced a new IP with Kojima Productions. That is seemingly going to be huge, ironically enough. That's 4 new AAA IP that's in development right now at PlayStation Studios, and that's just off the top of my head. So I think this notion of we should expect less new IP is a little bit disingenuous. And I think really what you should be saying is new IP is less likely during this time. And that's basically it. That's basically all you can say, because there's going to be new IP shown from PlayStation Studios. I just got a notification that my order of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has shipped. Now, does this mean that we're not going to get sequels? Of course we're getting sequels. Does this mean that we're not going to get remakes and remasters? We are going to get remakes and remasters. And here's the thing. I understand that there are people that get frustrated about remakes and remasters, especially when they seem to be coming frequently. But I just don't know how to communicate it more clearly than I have, but I will attempt to do it again. If you ever wonder why, Sony, why are you doing this? Even if it's an aggressive tone, like, God damn it, Sony, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Like, why? Another remake or remaster? The answer has been and always will be because they sell. Now, if you want to have a conversation about like the morality of it, like, is this right? Should this exist? I'll be honest with you. I've had that conversation so many times to just come to the same conclusion time and time again. And that is, it doesn't fucking matter whether I think this product should exist or not. The only thing that matters is, am I going to buy it or not? If I choose to buy it, then I'm doing my part and I'm sending the signal to Sony that I'm okay with this. Keep it going. If I choose to not buy it, then I'm doing my part and I'm sending the signal to Sony that I don't want this. No, thank you. I will keep my money. Maybe you'll get it next time. Any of the conversation that happens in between about this game getting remade or this game getting remastered, Sony's not paying attention to that. And I understand that it's an easy way to make it seem like Sony is very flawed right now. Like, man, Sony just doesn't stop with the remakes and the remasters. And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. People like them and they're buying them. Am I like, should we be angry at Sony for seeing that people are buying the products that they are putting out there? I mean, I guess I could be, but is that anger going to translate to them doing it less? I don't think so. So for me, the whole conversation about remakes and remasters, here's how I view it at this point. I've accepted that whether it be Sony or other studios and publishers outside of Sony, they're always going to happen. Sometimes they'll happen more frequently than at other times. And I've also accepted that there are going to be some remakes and remasters that I absolutely, yes, I am buying that day one. And there are going to be others that I look at and say, is that really needed? But either way, I also have accepted that the only thing that matters is whether I am going to put my money towards it or not. If it was as simple as, hey, Sony, you should do this or you should do that, you should, and I believe they're going to listen to me, you know? And that's all I can do, man. That's all I try to do with this conversation, because I think people get too intense about it. Just put your money where your mouth is, right? If you don't want more remakes and remasters, don't buy them. If you do want more of them, buy them. And if you're somebody who's angry that people keep buying them, well, I guess you could just try your best to convince those people to stop buying them, but you're probably going to fail in doing so. That's all. That's all, man. See, Space Wolf, you're saying Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't need a remaster. I agree with that. But let me ask you, does you saying that and my agreeing with that, is that going to stop it from coming out? Unfortunately, no. Is it going to stop people from buying it? No. I don't think so. However, the question we need to ask is this, Space Wolf. The question is not individual. Do you think we need a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster? Do I think we need a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster? We could both say no and come to that agreement, but the only question that really matters is, does the market, does the video game market as a whole collectively believe we need a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster? And the only way that answer is no is if the amount of people that are saying yes is so small that it's not going to justify Sony remaking or remastering it financially. That's just the way it is, man. I don't make the rules. Believe me, if it was up to me, Horizon Zero Dawn is one game that I would say, why are you guys doing this? Please don't do this. There's so many other games you could remake or remaster, but that's just not how it's going to unfold, unfortunately. Because and another thing, too, I want to say when it comes to the whole conversation about remakes and remasters, something that's fascinating to me, is it really, truly, for like, in terms of just the conversations you see online and the reactions you see from people, it's so fascinating to see the difference in games and how people respond, where it's like, hey, do you guys want a Bloodborne remake? And it's like, my God, man. My God. I've never seen more desire for a remake in my life than I've seen for Bloodborne, But then we see something like Until Dawn, and it's just so funny because it's like people are like, I don't know that I'm like upset that Until Dawn's getting remade, but it's like, why is this happening before Bloodborne? And see, that's why I believe that Sony knows what they're doing in some instance, in some regard here, right? Like, of course Sony, it knows that people are going to go nuts over a Bloodborne remake. But they're just like, well, let's just wait. Let's just wait for when we can really use it. So, you're saying deflection and excuses, MBG? That's quite the opposite. I'm not making any excuses. I'm telling you the way it is. If I tell you, like, factually this is the way it is and you perceive that as an excuse, there's nothing left to be said, dude. Like, it's quite the opposite of an. I'm not saying it is or isn't okay. I'm just saying this is what it is. And that's all. I'm not trying to be rude about it. I'm just saying that's all I'm doing. If you want my opinion, well, again, ask me on an individual basis. That's all. Do I want a Bloodborne remake? Absolutely. Do I want the Until Dawn remake? maybe. It doesn't offend me. I've never played Until Dawn, so it's like, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. Do I want a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster? Absolutely not. So I think really all it comes down to is it's not a matter of making excuses or deflecting. It's just a matter of, if you ask me on an individual basis, would you pay for this remake or remaster? What about this one? What about this one? Because to be honest, I think that's exactly how the market works, dude. Is Herman Hulst a good head of PlayStation Studios? Really quick, Capono, you're saying, I disagree with MBG saying to basically say nothing and let Sony continue doing that. Well, here's why. Like, all right, let me clear this up. I don't think there's anything wrong with you speaking your, like, that's what I'm doing here. Just speak your opinion. Just speak your opinion. Make it clear. I don't want more remakes and remasters. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no, like, absolutely not. And in a way, I could see why. Let's encourage that. But it's just important, I think, for people to just ground themselves and understand that Sony's not paying attention to streams like this, or chats, or Reddit threads, or Twitter threads. They're just not. Sony's looking at the data and looking at the numbers, and they're saying, hey, how did that Last of Us Part 2 remaster sell? Yeah, it made us a decent chunk of change. Oh, nice. All right, cool. Good stuff. It's working. We're on a good path here. Meanwhile, certain corners of the internet are on fucking fire over that. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think it's just the conundrum of, like, are we foolish to expect, like, these companies like Sony and others, are we foolish to expect them to do the morally right thing? And I think the answer to that is usually yes, we are foolish to expect that, because they're only going to do that if it's absolutely necessary. If it's not absolutely necessary, then it's just business as usual. And I maybe it is a bit of a nihilistic approach that I take to it. I will admit that. It is a bit nihilistic. Maybe some people even perceive it as defeatist, but I just try to bring it back down to speak with your wallet, right? That's all, like, really, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. You can speak on the internet. You can, if it's something massive, then yeah, if enough people, like, again, let's take the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster, which is apparently happening. I will encourage you, when it's announced, go let Sony know on the PlayStation YouTube channel. I can't promise you it'll matter. I can't promise that. In fact, I'm pretty sure it won't, but there is a chance. A small one. I just don't know if it's going to, you have to determine if it's worth your time and energy. But there is a small chance that if you do that, there might be enough people doing it as well to make Sony say, never mind, we're not going to do this. You see why I'm saying it's a slim chance? Because the backlash would have to be so massive, so big. It would force Sony to cancel a game. You know what I mean? That, like, or encourage, again, you can encourage people not to buy it, but I see this all the time, dude. I see it all the time where there's these absolute hate campaigns on games across the industry. And it's like, it just doesn't matter, dude. It just doesn't, like, dude, I've seen the people that have decided they're going to buy the game. They don't give a fuck what the internet has to say. They couldn't give a shit less, dude. They're like, I'm buying this game because I want to play it. And there ain't nothing you can say or do to stop me. And there's like millions of other people in some instances that feel the exact same way. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, you see what I'm saying? Do you see why I've become nihilistic about it? Because it's like, all right, I don't know what to, there's like, what are you going to do? You can't do it. That's the market, dude. The market speaks for itself. That's the point. So I do appreciate having the conversations about remakes and remasters, but I just think that at the end of the day, it's the market's going to speak for itself. Because here's what I'll tell you. Final thing I'll say. Final thing on this specific, specifically talking about remakes and remasters. If it's true that Sony is pushing it too far, like if they're doing too many remakes and too many remasters, then at some point it is going to break. Like they're going to break the audience. They're going to break the market where Sony will attempt to put out a remaster that is so egregious or unnecessary that it's like the market universally, collectively just says no. And Sony will get the message. But it just seems like we're not there yet. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. You're saying, MBG, the outraged don't come close to the amount of people who don't give a fuck and just play games. That's absolutely true. For better or for worse in some instances. And I agree with you as well, Josh. You're saying FF7 is an interesting case of remake. Yes. I think remakes and remasters are just like anything else. There's good, there's bad, and there's the ugly. I want to answer that question really quick, though, that somebody asked. Do I think Herman Hulst is doing a good job as the head of PlayStation Studios? I think he's done a decent job so far. I can honestly tell you that all right, listen. I want to point this out because I had this thought earlier. And for some reason, I had this thought when I was making my thumbnail for this stream today. I put Herman Hulst on the thumbnail. And the picture of Herman Hulst was when he was revealing Fizzant with Hideo Kojima. Do you guys remember that? And this, I specifically remember this because it made me very worried about Jim Ryan as the PlayStation CEO. When Sony entered into an agreement with Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions, it was in earnest, and it was done under Andrew House. So Jim Ryan was not in charge. It was Andrew House that was in charge, and Sean Layden. And if you look back to that time when Sony first made that agreement with Kojima, they were like, Sony made a very, very big deal about it. Like, this was like, we got him, boys. And you could tell. And we saw how close Herman Hulst, at the time the head of Guerrilla Games, was with Kojima. Herman Hulst was seemingly the one who convinced Kojima to use the Decima engine for Death Stranding. And Mark Cerny was hanging out with Kojima. And it was just a whole good time with these dudes, man. They were all having a great time. And then eventually Death Stranding came out, and around the same time Death Stranding came out, that's when Jim Ryan took over as CEO. And I remember there were some rumors circulating about how, like, Sony, like, the rumor was Sony wasn't really too happy with Death Stranding, or they weren't too happy with the sales. Like, one of the reasons why apparently Sony internally, and again, this kind of got me thinking about Jim Ryan, wasn't too happy about Death Stranding, is apparently the game was pitched more of like a horror game and not so much as a delivery game, right? And apparently, again, there was rumors that they weren't too happy with the sales. And what ended up happening during all of this is rumors not too long after that began to circulate that Kojima's going to make a partner. They're going to partner with Microsoft and Xbox. And I remember specifically during this time, there was a lot of fear, like I don't want to say mongering. It was actually kind of justified that people were like, holy shit, is Sony letting go of Kojima? And they're like not going to continue their partnership and they're just going to let him go to Xbox. And I did see people making the claim that, dude, that's Jim Ryan. Like, Jim Ryan doesn't see Death Stranding as a mega hit and as like true franchise potential. So they're just going to like, run the contract out. I think he has, one more game with Death Stranding 2 and that's it. Don't you guys find the timing of the announcement of Fizzant fascinating? I don't mean to be so conspiratorial and to be so, like I'm the blue box guy. I'm looking maybe too much into things, but I just find it fascinating that not even like 2 to 3 months after we find out Jim Ryan he's done at PlayStation. He's going to remain until March, but after that he's done. I find it fascinating that one of the first announcements we get is from Herman Hulst, clearly excited to say, yo, we are partnering with Kojima for the biggest fucking game this man's ever made. I really wonder if Herman was the one that made that happen or was trying to make that happen. Maybe Jim was getting in the way. I don't know. I'm not trying to like throw Jim Ryan under the bus to prop up Herman Hulst because I don't know. I feel like Herman this entire time, has basically been forced to just be like, he just had to do Jim Ryan's bidding. I feel like Herman probably was aware that like this live service push could go wrong, He like I just get this feeling that Herman has some kind of understanding from because again, man, like he made Killzone with Guerrilla and he made Horizon Zero Dawn with Guerrilla. It's like he has to know. Like he has to know, dude. He helped Kojima make Death Stranding with the Decima engine. He has to know, right? But Jim was the one in charge this entire time. And frankly, Herman Hulst has to do what Jim tells him to do. If Jim says, you find live service studios, you're the head of PlayStation Studios, we need studios that can make live service. That is Herman's job. And I don't know, man. Herman, see, the reason why I trust Herman for now, I could turn out to be wrong, but I trust him is because he comes from the development sector, man. He's a developer through and through. He's clearly a businessman too now, but I just have I'll put it to you this way. As of right now, it seems like he's here to stay as the head of PlayStation. I want to see if we get a completely different CEO, what Herman's role looks like then, right? I got a couple of milestone chats. Really quick, PS Gamer, you're saying, I told you, MBG, in a super chat after that state of play, there is a change in tune, and I think that has to do with Jim Ryan leaving soon. Yeah, I'm really saying Jim Ryan and Herman have killed the brand. We're gonna see. I gotta give Herman the credit, bro. Herman was the one who was out there announcing Fizzant with Kojima, not Jim. So we'll find out. Kipford, member for 36 months, says bad message, but would definitely buy a remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn. Bought the collectors of both Horizons plus the Regala of Horizon Forbidden West due to recent events, FPS, but also still Xbox. There you go. The first ever PlayStation and Xbox from Kipford. Kipford, it's fine, man. You are clearly a massive, massive Horizon fan. If I'm not mistaken, you've put like hundreds and hundreds of hours into those games. So yeah, I think in your specific case, I don't have a problem at all, dude, with you wanting to buy a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster. I'm not going to get angry at you and be like, you're sending the wrong message to Sony. It's like, dude, you know what I'm going to tell you? You do you, bro. That's what I'm going to tell you. Why would I try to steal your happiness or you know what I mean? Or make you feel bad? You love the Horizon games. I get people coming to me all the time with that energy. And it's like, can you just leave me be? You know, like you do you, I'll do me, and we'll just leave it be. All right, let me see here. We got Dale, member for 7 months. He says, I'd love to see you react to why you reject popular video games. What did you do for work before YouTube? As someone struggling to get back into the workforce, I'd love to do what you do. I worked mostly in retail. I did work like some factory jobs prior to YouTube, but I shifted to retail and sales, and it was a very interesting experience. And learned a lot, certainly. But you're saying that you're struggling to get back into the workforce and you'd love to do what I do. Well, to be honest, dude, I do consider myself very lucky. I do think that in order for anybody to make it in anything, it requires a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment, a lot of work, obviously. But I do also firmly believe there's a little bit of luck involved, which we don't have control over. And there's not necessarily a rhyme or reason, but that's just one part of it, you know? Do I have a degree in business? I absolutely do not have a degree in business. No, I am absolutely just an armchair analyst. So, this trust me, if I thought that there was like weight behind what I'm saying, like this is what actually is going to happen based off of what I'm saying, I would be thinking. It's not that I would be thinking harder about it, because I do think very hard about it, but I would be much less talkative about it if I was the one making the decisions. I have a PhD in armchair analytics. There you go. Absolutely. It's funny because I don't even have any arms on this chair, but Dale, you're saying the only thing I don't understand about your chat here is you're saying I'd love to see you react to why you reject popular video games. Or popular games, but sorry, I misread that. You're saying you want to see me react to a video titled Why You Reject Popular Games. Okay. Yeah, maybe in the next members lounge. I'm not going to be doing a members lounge today. We'll do another one tomorrow. But maybe I can make that happen. Just try to remind me if you're in the members lounge with me tomorrow. Devilac 47, you're saying Sony needs more Stellar Blade and Lies of P and less Forspoken and Zero Sweet Baby Inc. Till then, I'm not hopeful for their single player push. Well, it's interesting because yesterday somebody made that claim on my channel. They were like, Sony's games are not selling as good as they could, or they're failing because they went woke. And I did see somebody, at least one person, reply with a comment basically saying that there really isn't a correlation there. I do think there is a correlation, but it's like a small percentage, if that makes sense. I think that we are reaching that point where it is becoming pretty clear that there is a level of acceptance within the market. There's like a, I guess you could say a threshold that once you pass that threshold, more of the market notices, a more vocal portion of that market. And it's tough because in the same way that I told you guys, it's like, oh, you shouldn't say anything because of this or that, like it's not going to affect the sales. Let's take Spider-Man 2, for example. Spider-Man 2 was absolutely crushed for what we would call the woke agenda being inserted into this game. And even when I was talking about it, it just constantly came up. And it's like, I have my opinion on that, which I've already established multiple times. And I'm not trying to go into that direction or have that conversation because it's overdone at this point. But did it hurt sales of the game? Did it stop Spider-Man 2 from being a success? No, I don't think it did. However, will it hurt future games? Will it hurt the upcoming Venom game? Will it hurt Spider-Man 3? Well, this is where I believe that there are a certain amount of people who bought and played Spider-Man 2, and they notice this stuff and they make the decision, I think I'm done. Yeah, I bought this one and I played it, not really enjoying every aspect of it as much as I expected. Maybe some aspects of it are even just annoying me. So I'm not going to buy the next one. Yes, I think there is a percentage of people that feel that way now. Not from watching videos, not from listening to what people are saying, but from playing the game themselves. I also think there is a relatively small percentage of people that did watch the videos. They saw all the videos about the woke agenda, they listened to all the opinions, and they were swayed. And I think that they decided, if they did buy the game or not, that, you know what, I think I'm done with Insomniac. But at the same time, it's Spider-Man. You see what I'm saying? Where it's like, I guess what I'm trying to say here is it's not as simple as, if the game goes woke, so to speak, right? Or the devs start to kind of push their political agendas inside of them, they're not going to sell, they're going to fail. I don't think it's that clear cut. But I also don't think it's true to say that if they do that, it's going to have zero impact whatsoever. No one's going to care. That's not true either. I think it is simply this. I think it is, this is just my opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. You know, I'm not trying to argue with anybody here. I'm just giving my opinion. I think it is as simple as, if you, as a development team, choose to insert any political ideology or, you know, anything that's going on with, culturally speaking, like anything that's going to provoke some type of controversy, I think you are at risk of lowering your sales. Not killing the game, not ensuring the game will be a failure, but just hurting a certain portion of the sales and of the potential reach of that game. That's what I think. And I think that if it depends on the level of wokeness or whatever, right? It depends on how much are you really putting in there? How heavy-handed is it? Are you beating people over the head aggressively with it? I think that also determines, again, like how high that percentage goes of, okay, you're kind of pushing away a certain audience now. You're potentially hurting the sales of this. But I think a game like, and I did say this about Spider-Man 2, that it is the Spider-Man IP. It's like, it just seems like if there's ever an IP where they could insert stuff like that and it'll likely be safe sales-wise, it's probably Spider-Man. You know, that's my guess anyway. Capono, you're saying I don't think MBG likes this topic. Well, it's not that I dislike the topic as much as it's just, honestly, my whole stance on this particular topic is that, dude, it's already everywhere. Like, it almost feels like there's no point in me even acknowledging it, because there's like, if you search Spider-Man 2 woke, my God, you'll find a sea of videos that are hours long, like doing these in-depth, insane reports. And I'm like, all right, I played the game myself and I already told you, like, dude, Spider-Man 2 was an overall enjoyable experience. Like, I didn't walk away from it being like, man, I fucking hate this game. But it didn't leave an impression on me in a positive. Like, it just, to be honest, it really was a game where I'm like, okay, it's Spider-Man 2 and I did the spider stuff and yup. that's cool. I'm ready to move on. You know what I mean? Like, and I just kind of faded into the background for me, you know? And I did notice some of the woke stuff, or just some of the stuff that they were doing. I'm like, all right, you know, please, you know, just to me, it's just cringe. It's all just cringe. You know what it is? To me, it's people doing it and people reacting intensely to it is all cringe to me. Because it's like, I've tried to explain to people that the more of an emotional reaction, like if there is a sentiment among people on the internet and in our society today that there's a group of people, right? And they want to piss us off. They want to do this and they want to do that, and they just want to push for it, and they want to push for it, and they want to win. And it's like, listen, you overreacting to what they're doing by putting this or that in your media, you overreacting to that, they win. You just gave them probably the most satisfaction that they could have wished for. They pissed you off. They pissed you off enough to see you rage about it and cry about it. And that's basically what I'm describing as a troll. Like if people believe that these people are actually trying to troll, then you're giving them exactly what they want. Because I've said it over and over again. The simplest way to neutralize it is just don't give it attention. Fucking ignore it. Because here's the truth, man. If you believe you are correct and that's wrong, or that's not ideal, or that's too egregious, whatever, there's just something inherently bad about it. If you truly are correct, then people will see that and people will gravitate away from it. See, what happens is people get upset when they see that there are people that do gravitate towards it. And it's like, listen, man, all we can do is think for ourselves. And that's, in my opinion, that's the only thing you can encourage somebody to do is if you want to educate somebody, educate them. But most importantly, you got to think for yourself. Take a good hard look, process it for a moment, and think about how it makes you feel and base your decision off that. I think there are too many people that try way too aggressively to tell people how they should feel about something. And that, to me, is what gets so fucking old and tired and boring. Where it's like, I don't care. You know? Like, I don't care how you think I or anybody else should feel. And I don't even care how you feel, because it's like, you're just one person. So you just got to make your own choices, man. That's all. Anyway, got a little bit off topic there. But you know, it happens sometimes. In conclusion, Sony's budgets are too high. Sony's budget of Spider-Man 2 bloated to $300 million because they wokeified it. I mean, probably not, but philosophical. Yeah, this is philosophical, man. It's a slippery slope. Well, yeah, but again, why do you think it's a slippery slope? It's a slippery slope because people are too extreme. People get, look, I'm guilty of this. I'm a human being. We're all guilty of this, but people get too much in their feelings, man, over shit that it's like, dude, I'm guilty of this, not in the political space, but believe it, like in the video game space. And I always realize, like, oh man, I care. Like, why do I care this much? This is silly. You know, people get, I'm telling you, they get worked up and they get too much in their feels because they just get offended by shit so easily. It's like, who fucking cares, man? Like, let it go. Let it go. Move on. Find something better. It's out there. Dude, that's the thing. It's out there. Something better is out there for you. You just don't know it because you're too focused on raging and being upset and fighting with people. Anyway, as I'm raging, All right. October's very own with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. You're saying devastated by the Twisted Metal news, and now it makes sense why we haven't seen no big shows from Sony in the past year. Yeah, that is unfortunate because I know that there was a fair amount of people that were very excited about a Twisted Metal revival, you know, a classic PlayStation franchise making a comeback. Well, I again in the spirit of trying to see the glass half full, I'm just going to assume that it was for the best. I'm going to assume that if Sony decided we just have to shut this down, it's because the game just wasn't coming together for one reason or another, that it maybe the mechanics just were not good. Yes, Chris Brown, the Twisted Metal was reported by Jason Schreier that the Twisted Metal live service game was canceled. This was going to be a live service game. Maybe they just couldn't figure it out, man. We'll never know. You're saying, according to Jason Schreier, Twisted Metal and Sony London's game were still very far away, even if they weren't canceled. So, that's worth mentioning too. October's very own is one of the things Jason Schreier reported with the cancellation of this Twisted Metal game is that it didn't even get fully greenlit. It was in the early conceptual stages of development. So even if it didn't get canceled, it would be a game that we don't see for years to come. Saying it doesn't make sense. How can you have a hit show and not a game to go with it? It is a little awkward. Yeah, I won't lie. The fact that the show is going well and the show is based off a game, but there is no game to play today, like a modern version, it is a little weird. Maybe Sony will do something with it in the future, but for now, it seems like Twisted Metal is going to stay. It's going to remain on hiatus. Oh my god! Oh man, the chat, not the entire chat, but at least a individual in the chat just said something totally unhinged. I'm not reading that. Yeah, I saw that, random jabroni. I saw that. Yeah, let's read this article that came out. Last of Us director Neil Druckman says he doesn't think he has many more big games left in him. Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us creator Neil Druckman has said that he started thinking seriously about when he might stop making blockbuster games. In an interview with Rapper Logic, Naughty Dog's president said he could envision himself transitioning to something more low-key, which enables him to continue being creative in a less stressful environment while also spending more time with his kids. Asked if he sees himself making games forever, Druckman said that he said that recently he's really enjoyed working on other creative projects like The Last of Us show and the Halloween Horror Nights experience at Universal Studios. I guess that I don't see myself doing this forever at this scale, he said. It's just a lot, and it takes a lot out of you. It's very stressful to manage that many people and multiple studios worldwide. So you were talking about how you're entering this new phase of your life where your kids are number one, and I'm in a similar place where my kids are number one, and I know that, especially my daughter's now 13, and I feel like life is pulling her away from me. I know that time is limited, so it's very precious to me, and I don't want to waste it when they do want to spend time with me, and that's number one. Yeah, so I'm just at a point in my life where it's like you start looking at what's the end game here. When is it time to call it? Druckman says that he's a big Quentin Tarantino fan, and he's keen to find out if the director sticks to his public comments about making no more than 10 films. He thinks that the Pulp Fiction director will, but he'll end up making TV shows or doing something creative. So I could see myself transitioning to something that's more low-key and lower stressed. That still allows me to have the creative outlet, Druckman said. But, I've started thinking about how many more of these games do I have in me, and it's not that many. Druckman went on to say that everything changed following the release of 2009's Uncharted 2, and that he's been a victim of his own success. He's a victim of his own success. Uncharted 2 was the most fun I had making any of the games I've worked on because Uncharted 1, a lot of people loved it. And it wasn't this huge success. It was successful enough, again, that we made Sony happy. We made enough money. But with Uncharted 2, we felt like we had something really special. Like, we all knew it. And we knew we were flying under the radar, and no one was going to expect what we were about to deliver. And I remember that we would spend late nights playing the multiplayer as well, and there was just a camaraderie, and the stress wasn't there. And afterwards, everything has been incredibly stressful. After Uncharted 2, because now you're no longer flying under the radar. Now everybody's expecting something to be great. And you have to think, how do you make it great? And how do we do it in a way that doesn't feel like we're just repeating ourselves? So you always have to make it great and new, which is really, really hard. So I know, a lot of people don't like Neil Druckman, but I do find his comments very interesting given the current situation. I do find it very interesting that, Neil is reflecting on making a game like Uncharted 2 and basically talking about how there wasn't this insane pressure on Naughty Dog with Uncharted 2. The only pressure that was there is you guys made Uncharted 1, and that was a pretty good game. So hopefully we're thinking Uncharted 2 might be a pretty good game too. And yeah, you think about that. You think about the situation that Sony finds themselves in, where it's like, we got to make these games bigger and better. You think about The Last of Us. You think about The Last of Us Part 2 after that, and how The Last of Us Part 2 was like double the size of the first game. You're saying Antonio Lopes, MBG, Corey Barlog also said he wants to retire as well, replying to Neil. Damn, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's realistic to expect to make some of the biggest and best games in the world and not have a certain level of stress and pressure. But I do believe that there comes a time where it's like, not only do the creators themselves have to just let it go, but the audience and the market has to let it go. And what I mean by that is, just fucking make what you want. Just put everything into it that you want to put into it. Make what you want. And if people love it, they'll love it. If they hate it, they hate it. If it does fine, it'll do fine. Because at the end of the day, that's... at the end of the day, people are going to do that no matter what. So, what Neil is saying here, he's not saying he's not making any more big games. It's clear we're going to get another big game from Neil Druckman, and some people might love that, some people might hate that, but the only thing that doesn't sit well with me about Neil Druckman's comments, and it's not what he's saying. It's like, if there's truth to what he's saying, which I assume there is, this is where it's like, I don't want that from PlayStation Studios. And what I mean is, I don't, let's think of Corey Barlog right now. You said Corey Barlog replied to Neil Druckman saying he wants to retire too. Dude, Corey Barlog is probably bald at this point. No, I'm just kidding. He's probably not bald, but he's probably feeling a level of stress and pressure, and every day he's probably tormented by the thought that this isn't going to be as good as what I did with God of War. this new game I'm making, people are going to hate it. The only thing people are going to say about this game is this is not as good as what you did with God of War. Now, obviously, we don't know if that's true. It probably won't be true, but it's like, that sucks because it's like, dude, it doesn't have to be bigger and better. It just doesn't have to be. That's true. You're right. They're making good money, but there's more. I think there's more to the artistic side of it than just, I mean, the money's good, obviously. Obviously, if they weren't making money, they wouldn't be doing it. How could they? But there's still it's like the tortured artist type thing here. And I'm convinced, dude, it's so interesting hearing this from Neil Druckman and seeing what's happening with PlayStation Studios, where it's like, we all collectively need to fucking chill, including me. We do. We do. We need to get back to the roots of it all. I do. You do. The creators do. Sony executives do. We need to get back to the roots of what the fuck is this supposed to be about? Just make some fun games, man. Just make some great, memorable, fun games. Make some great experiences. Anything else is just extra. Do it if you want. We got it. We have to. It's an imperative at this point. I don't think we have a choice. I think it's going to happen. Even the creators are getting to that point where they're like, this is too much now. Like, we've reached the tipping point. You know what Sony should do? Fuck it. Let Naughty Dog make another Jak and Daxter if they want to make one. Is it going to be what people expect? No. Are some people going to lose their fucking minds and being like, the fuck is this? Yes. Are other people going to lose their minds being like, yes, another Jak? Yes. But it's just, there has to be a healthier balance here where it's so clear. Look, man, I'm sorry, but not only am I beginning to think that Jim Ryan was wrong, but I think I was wrong too in thinking that the direction that Sony was going in, not wrong completely in that, like, man, PlayStation went in the completely wrong direction. I think my mentality of just, they do need to keep pushing was, I think it's proven now. It's that this is a wrong mentality because it's not working. Like how much further can we push it before we fucking push it over the edge and crash? And I know you're saying Corey's a troll. He's probably just kidding, but I'm just saying that, like, it's needed now. Like, we need to just collectively pump the brakes a little bit, myself included, when it comes to my own expectations, where I am reminded time and time again that as much as I do love massive AAA games, that not every AAA game has to be the biggest and the best for me to love it. In fact, it doesn't have to do half the things that some of these games do in order for me to love it. This is once again where people bring up Helldivers and they're like, damn, dude, Helldivers is a perfect reminder of we need games like this. We do. Like, we really need games like this where there's a quality touch to it, but it's not trying to fucking take it to the limit. It's just trying to it's just trying to show you a good time. And I know that there's an expectation with PlayStation Studios. I know that there is a high watermark that we have come to expect, but I am just at a point where it's like, listen, I don't know that it's worth it anymore. If it's going to put the studios in jeopardy, if it's going to stress the fucking team, if it's going to stress the directors of these games out to the point where they're like, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't know that it's worth it. So I'm just at a point where I feel like I'm ready to just turn to PlayStation Studios, turn to these games, turn to these developers, turn to Sony and say, listen, I'm okay if you guys have to just bring it down a notch or two. But as long as there's only one thing I care about at this point. And it is just make some good games. Some good, solid experiences that, again, I can get behind and enjoy and play. That's it. Because at this point, I do feel like if I continue to cheer on, we need to have this extreme graphical fidelity and this extreme quality bar, and everything has to be pushed to the limit. I am beginning to think that like I am basically rooting for the destruction of the AAA games market, because it's so obvious that it's not working anymore. You know? Wabu dude. You're saying Sean Layden was right. He was. He was right. You're saying Naughty Dog's aim is always perfection. And that's what I mean. Like, maybe it's okay if it's not anymore. For their sake too, dude. Like, maybe it's okay if it's just like, do we, I played The Last of Us Part 2 again recently, and something I expressed to you guys about that game is like, dude, the level of detail is staggering. And there were just certain moments in the game where I was exploring some of these areas very in depth, just studying them, seeing how everything reacts, the physics. It's like, oh, look at this tree over here with snow on it. Surely if I brush on it, like this is just a random tree sitting over here that I'm never going to touch, right? But I'm going to go over there and brush up against it and see if it reacts and if the snow falls down it. And it did. I'm like, yo, somebody programmed that. Somebody made that and programmed that. And it just and I just wondered, like, is that necessary? It's not, dude. It's called pixel peeping, you perp. I'm not, it's impressive. It is. It's like, whoa, you guys went the extra mile. I can respect that level of perfectionism and that work, but it's like, it's totally cool if that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like, it's totally cool if zero dev time goes into something like that because we don't need it. I'm totally cool with that. And little stuff like that exists all over the game, dude. All over the game. And I'm not advocating for cutting corners because it's not about that. It's just, I guess in a way, it's just I'm advocating for like trim what's actually genuinely unnecessary. Where maybe on a technical level, and for people who are gonna, again, be super like weird about it, like me, and be like, well, does your tree react in real time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, who gives a shit about that? Oh, this is interesting. MBG, did you see one of Insomniac's game directors calling out Sony today? It's the 30th birthday of Insomniac. No, could you give me the name of the director? I didn't see this. You're saying, MBG, there's already game engines with that kind of physics built in. Well, yeah, I could be wrong. And yeah, I'm not a developer, so my assumption is that time and effort went into that. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe it was just already it's already done. I don't see. I have trouble believing that though, because it's like, no, I'm pretty sure somebody at Naughty Dog spent like a couple days of work working on that tree, bro. I could be wrong though. They win awards for the details in their games. And you're right, but it's like, I don't know. See, that's where it's like, I'm okay. Let it go. If that's what you have to let go of to make it sustainable, I'm okay with that. Unless there's another way. If there's another way that can leave everybody happy, I'm cool with that too. MBG, we all laughed at the Halo Infinite demo looking horrible and the trees look low res. So you want that in Sony's game? Well, no. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's different degrees here. There's different degrees where it's like Halo Infinite, when we first saw it, like it looked like a 360 game, dude, in some regards. And people were like, dude, that's unacceptable. And I agreed with that. Like, to me, that I'm not saying Naughty Dog, make your next game look like Uncharted 3 on PS3. I'm not saying that. And I'm not advocating for that. Right. And I think Halo Infinite has improved since then, but that's like, there are just different degrees here where, again, I will go back to Ghost of Tsushima as a prime example of, dude, if you look closely at the assets in Ghost of Tsushima, there are definitely some assets that are not as high detail. Like, you can tell. You could just tell, like, okay, they maybe didn't have enough budget for some of these assets. And it's fine. It's like, dude, the game is still beautiful. And this is where this is where I think a lot of the solution that Sony has implemented within their studios is it's a volume. Like, I think that they're like, we need to solve these problems with volume. We need more devs, we need more time, we need more money, we need more technology. We need all these things, and we have to throw them all. And yes, we see what happens. It's like, wow, yeah, you got a fucking great, impeccable looking game there, man. But there's something to be said for development teams when they run into certain problems, getting creative about it, finding different solutions where maybe we don't have the budget, maybe we don't have the time either, maybe we don't even have the manpower or the resources, but is there a way where if we just put some extra creative thought into it, we can make it work? And I just feel like in the case of Ghost of Tsushima, it's like, who the hell's going to notice a few assets being a little bit lacking when you have an art palette or an art style and a color palette like that? You know what I mean? And it's like, somebody at Sucker Punch just realized that people are going to gravitate more towards the art style and just the visual presentation and aesthetic of this game than the quality of some of the assets. Now, if you're going for a much more gray, grounded, realistic looking game and the colors are pretty muted, I think in that instance, it becomes much easier to maybe notice certain imperfections in that regard because it's just, they stick out a little bit more. At least I think so. But yeah, I don't know. And who's going to push the industry? That's a great question. I don't know. I think right now, at least for the foreseeable future, until things change, I don't think anybody can put. I mean, maybe Rockstar with GTA 6, but beyond that, I don't think anything can. Just because it's like the development teams cannot focus on pushing the industry if they're focused on surviving. If the publishers are focused on surviving, if the companies themselves are focused on surviving. So once we get out of this survival mode, I think we'll find out. Yeah, we have hit a wall, and everybody's like basically, not bracing for impact. The impact has already occurred. We're trying to just, I guess you could say, weather the storm now and get through it. And so, Wabu Dude, sorry I missed your chat here. Thank you for that, buddy. You're saying, I wouldn't mind if Sony started making more games like Kena and Astro and cut back on the high budget titles. I think that's a really smart thing that people have been saying, where they're like, we do need more games like that from Sony. Like, not every game has to be the biggest triple anus, right? Like, what about Kena, Bridge of Spirits? What about Astro? Like, what about these games? They're fucking awesome. People love them. I enjoyed them. And I absolutely would love to have more games like that. And I think that's where Sony, again, I don't know if they're going to be able, like, I don't think we're going to get a game like Kena Bridge of Spirits, or, well, I mean, technically, we did get Astro from Team Asobi, which is a first-party studio. So I guess we will get that from Sony. But I guess most of those types of games, I just feel like Sony, I just don't imagine them going to, like, Sucker Punch and saying, hey, we know you guys are working on Ghost of Tsushima 2, but can you make something like within 2 to 3 years, much smaller scale, kind of like a hybrid of AA and AAA? You think you could do that? Like, I just, you know what I mean? And I don't know how many studios underneath Sony at this point. I mean, again, maybe like Media Molecule, Team Asobi. These are two teams I think can absolutely do that, but I think Sony's going to have to rely on partner studios to keep doing that as well. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like Sly Cooper, yes. Yes, exactly. I don't think Sony's going to say, Sucker Punch, can you make another Sly Cooper? But there's also we also have to question the psyche of the studios themselves as well. Because we do have to understand that a lot of these studios might not want to do stuff like that as well. The Insomniac dev is Ben Arfman. All right, let me check. Curious. Okay, so Ben Arfman, he says DICE winning BAFTA/WGA nominated narrative director for Spider-Man 2, the lead writer of Miles Morales, and a writer on Spider-Man. He quote tweeted Jason Schreier's tweet from yesterday, where Jason Schreier says, among other divisions, the layoffs will hit Insomniac, Naughty Dog, Guerrilla, three of PlayStation's most successful subsidiaries. And he said, Ben Arfman says, today's Insomniac's 30-year anniversary. The constant internal refrain yesterday, we can't remember anything like this ever happening before. And just months since releasing arguably the most successful game in the studio's history, baffled, angry, and heartbroken. Well, yeah, man. It's that's some spooky ass shit right there. Straight up. Thoughts on the cheap stroke game developers making $350K profit from their shovelware games? Are you talking what shovelware games are you talking about exactly? Yeah, layoffs on the anniversary. To me, the thing that really stands out is how he was basically saying, like, we shipped our biggest and most successful game in the studio's history, and like this still has to happen. Yeah. Oh, okay. You're saying the Stroke guy made a game called Stroke the Cat. Is that the one where you just press a button and there's like just a single animation of like a hand petting a cat or something? My thoughts on that, he made $350,000 in profit. A part of me wants to be angry. No animation, just a picture. Yo, you know what my thoughts on this are? I should get in on this. Lift the weight, bro. Pump the iron. This will be my first game. Easy platinum. Easy money. I'm ready. Let's go. That's what I think. I think you just gave me a great idea. I make enough money I could retire from YouTube. No, in all seriousness, it is disappointing, truthfully, to see that the PlayStation Store has become like just completely filled with these types of games where it's like he actually did retire. I can't blame him, dude. But I can't blame the guy. He just saw the opportunity, man. And if he didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it. Because you know why? Nobody stopped them. Sony didn't say, hey, you can't release that game. Hey, you can't make money on that game. We have a higher standard for our PlayStation Store. Nobody did that. So I'm not going to blame somebody who sees an opportunity to do something like that, make money in a fair way. To be clear, like he didn't do anything wrong, right? Like he just put it out on a marketplace that allowed it to be sold and people bought it. And there was nothing in the way to stop it. So, you know what they say? It's like, don't hate the player, hate the game or whatever. And in this case, you know, I feel, oh God, I feel that Sony, I'm shocked that they haven't stopped these types of games from being allowed on the store yet. And so we hate both. We hate the player and the game. It is what it is, bro. But goddamn, making $350K. Yeah, you could retire for a little bit. All right, I got another article here I want to read to you guys. PlayStation's VP of Product Management, Harami Wakai, has revealed that PlayStation Portal sales continue to exceed Sony's expectations. While the company doesn't have any numbers to share, Wakai revealed in an interview that the handheld remote player has proven to be surprisingly popular among PS5 owners. Speaking on Stephen Totillo's Game File, he reiterated that PlayStation Portal is a niche product that's meant for people with very specific needs. In response to criticisms that the Portal is strictly a remote player, Sony previously said that the handheld was not designed to make a profit to begin with. From the beginning, PlayStation Portal was intended to be a product best suited for people with specific needs and those who want to play in a specific way. So the reactions after the announcement were very much within our expectations, he said, adding that such is the Portal's popularity that Sony is shipping more units consistently. We will continue to bring more units to the market, he promised. Elsewhere, he revealed that the Portal's production didn't fully kickstart until 2022. Asked whether Sony will allow Portal users to stream games directly in the future, he said that he doesn't have anything to share regarding that. So, just wanted to give you the small update on the PlayStation Portal where Sony is once again reiterating that it's more successful than they expected it to be. You know, you still can't buy one right now. And, you know, just to show you how dumb people on Twitter really are, I put out a tweet where I quoted what Sony said here, where they said that like sales continue to exceed our expectations. And I said, man, it seems like this thing is a much bigger success than Sony expected, or it's a big success for Sony. And again, just to show you how stupid people are on Twitter, the amount of replies I've got from people saying that's not true. If it was successful, they would reveal the numbers. People constantly make fun of Xbox for not revealing numbers, but Sony isn't revealing numbers either. And it's like, man, I really wish, like, I really can't tell if like the replies I'm reading, it's like, there's no way you're this dumb, right? Like, there's just no way, right? But no, they definitely are. And the reality is, a product that was designed to sell a low volume that ends up selling a higher volume to a point where it's constantly sold out and they're having trouble meeting the demand. That's what you call a successful product. Like, it is disturbing how desperate people are to try to make it seem like a product that is that has been sold out since, what did it come out in November, I think? Since November, and it's still sold out. Yeah, that thing's a failure, bro. Yeah, it's such a failure that people keep buying it. It's wild. Like, you can't make this shit up. But objectively, factually speaking, it is a success for Sony because it's something they weren't expecting to make a profit on. It's something that was basically an experiment. It's something that was supposed to be so low volume that they still can't produce enough to, to satisfy demand. I'll tell you right now, I've been wanting to buy one, and I haven't been able to. I'm like still waiting. I'm still waiting for when they're just, I can go on Amazon or go on PlayStation Direct and they're just there. I've decided I'm not going to buy it from a scalper. I'm just going to wait. But I think this is a good, oh my God. I think this is, sorry, reading another unhinged comment in the chat. This is another, I would say, just another clear indication that Sony's going to do more in the handheld space. I think there's absolutely demand for it. I know it's just a remote play device, but Miguel, you're saying MBG, I think a better solution would be the bigger studios work big AAA and smaller do smaller games, or maybe just tell them do whatever you want. But this budget is, but this is your budget limit. Yeah. Well, I think the developers are going to have to start to get, I'll be honest with you guys. I think the devs are going to have to start to, the developers of PlayStation Studios, I'm assuming the budgets are going to be reduced. Like, I don't want to say substantially, but to a noticeable degree. And I think what's ultimately going to happen is you're going to have to find different solutions during development. You just are. Like, you're going to have to work with what we give you, and you're going to have to find a way to make it work. I think that's all it's going to come down to. And I have faith in that. I have faith that Sony's developers, they're very talented. I don't know that they'll be able to do everything with a more limited budget, but I think they'll be able to do enough, certainly things that we weren't expecting, hopefully, or things that you wouldn't expect with a more limited budget, I guess you could say. Let me see here. So 1, 2, 3. So we still have 4 more topics to go over. Some of them we're going to go through quicker, obviously, but how am I feeling about VR after the layoffs? Not great. Not great. I'm really beginning to think that not to be a downer, it's just being realistic about it. I think VR might have, I don't even say it's in the back seat now. Like, I think it might just be in the trunk for Sony, where it's like, we just can't really afford to invest in this right now. I think that's why they're bringing it to PC. Like I think Sony is bringing it, maybe not in the trunk. Maybe it's a bit of an exaggeration. I think Sony's going to bring it to PC in an effort to like give it a boost and a kickstart, another kickstart, hopefully. And if that works, maybe they'll be like, okay, now we can invest more in this. It's selling more now that it's on PC, so on and so forth. Then they'll be like, okay, we could do more now. But until that happens, I don't know. You're saying they shouldn't waste money on it, in your opinion? Well, they're not going to at this point. I'm not saying that there aren't any VR games in development at PlayStation Studios, but I will say that it's probably very limited, and they're probably not greenlighting many more, if any at all. They're probably just waiting to see what happens. All right, so we have another topic here talking about Helldivers 2. I just want to keep you guys updated. I know a lot of people are still playing Helldivers 2, myself included. Arrowhead Game Studios has rolled out a new Helldivers 2 patch, which improves the login speed on PlayStation 5 and more. Another day, another patch for Arrowhead's hit title, it would seem. Without a doubt, the developer is hard at work to further improve the co-op sci-fi shooter on both PS5 and PC. Recently, they just deployed a patch that increased the server capacity to over 700,000 players. Today's update not only improves login speed on PlayStation 5, but should also reduce the amount of error messages on Sony's console. In addition, this new patch addresses an issue where super credits would not show up after being collected or purchased. Also, this patch introduces proper support for AZERTY, I guess that's how you say that, keyboards, by allowing the ship HUD shortcuts to be rebound. The update also comes with several AFK kick-related issues across both platforms. And so, yeah, they do have the full patch notes, but I'm not going to read the all of them. There's quite a bit, but there you go. Just another patch. They're continuing to do good work over there at Arrowhead and grinding away, making sure that they're getting the game in tip-top shape. I have another report here about the Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch 2 is launching sometime during March 2025, according to a new report shared online. Japanese publication, is it Nikkei or Nikki? I don't know how to say it exactly. Revealed in a new report shared today that the new console from the Japanese company, which is supposedly releasing this year, but was recently delayed to 2025, will launch in around 1 year's time. According to that report, it's going to be launching in early 2025 and will allow Nintendo to secure a solid stock of consoles and have a good launch lineup featuring popular titles. A March 2025 release for the Nintendo Switch 2 makes much sense, even financially, as the console would still get launched in the current fiscal year. Additionally, the original Switch was also released successfully in March, so Nintendo is likely not worried about missing the 2024 holiday shopping season. Still, without official confirmation, we have to take this release window with a grain of salt. So, what are you guys thinking? Nintendo Switch 2, early 2025. I think it makes sense. I mean, it would have been interesting to see Nintendo release a follow-up to the Switch during a holiday season. I think it would have killed. But I can also see why they're like, you know what? It's more important that we have certain games ready to launch. And I think the advantage of Nintendo launching their new console during like a February, March timeframe is the exact advantage that they had with the original Switch, which is you're going to kind of have that space to yourself. I mean, there will likely be some game releases, of course, but not nearly as crowded as the holiday season. I'm so fascinated to see how. To be honest, I'm not necessarily fascinated about the Switch 2 itself because I'm pretty sure it's going to be another handheld hybrid. It's going to be just a much better version of the Switch that we have now. Obviously, it's going to get incredible first-party support from Nintendo, but the thing I'm most curious about is I want to see what that third-party support looks like. I want to see what that third-party support looks like. Sony's $10 billion lawsuit has over 90K signatures. The trial will start in April. That'll be interesting. All right. Oh, damn. I accidentally... Sorry, guys. Having some technical difficulties here. Just give me a moment. And we're back. Okay. Hold on. Are we good? What the hell happened? We're good? Yeah, I don't know what happened there. My bad. Nothing happened on your end? Oh, well, good. If it was good the whole time, good. But something happened on my end. I was just trying to figure out if everything's good on your end. I've been here the whole time? All right. Good to know. Good to know. I thought my stream shut down for a moment there. But we're good. We're good. All right. Let me take a sip here. Am I going crazy? Yeah, maybe a little bit. So check this topic out. This is pretty interesting because I remember when it was announced that this individual left Activision or left Treyarch. Today, NetEase announced a foundation of a new AAA remote first, albeit with a headquarters in Los Angeles, game development studio called Bullet Farm. This is going to be led by Call of Duty Black Ops designer David Vonderhaar, who's basically a legend in in FPS game development. Simon Zhu, or Shu, I don't know how you say it, president of global investments and partnerships at NetEase Games, stated, NetEase Games is fully dedicated to giving Bullet Farm the resources and support required to build this new first-person experience. David's leadership and the early collection of game development talent assembled at the studio is set to offer something truly unique for his existing fans, along with his new audience. David Vonderhaar, the studio head, also said, starting this new studio has given me a chance to step out of my comfort zone and try my hand at making something entirely new and different. This is a departure from the games I've worked on, but one that showcases my passion for rich characters, precise mechanics, more intimate storytelling, and plenty of action. NetEase has provided us an incredible support structure to explore these new avenues and allow true freedom to begin building the concept and ideas for our game. Vonderhaar left Treyarch on August 18th, 2023. His new team has been making an ambitious AAA game with Epic's Unreal Engine 5. It will be set in an original universe, emphasizing cooperation gameplay. According to the press release, the game is targeting a more intimate and relatable experience while offering a fresh take on first-person gameplay. So I had to talk to you guys about this because I was definitely fascinated in David Vonderhaar leaving Treyarch because, I mean, he was awesome. Like he was the multiplayer designer essentially at Treyarch, and I was even curious if maybe like Sony was trying to court him, but it turns out it was NetEase, and he's got a whole new studio. So just wanted to let you guys know there's going to be another first-person shooter. This seems like a big push for whatever this game is going to be. It's probably very far away, but there you go. Have another update for Battlefield for you. DICE, Criterion, and Ripple Effect Studios are working hard to make the next Battlefield game the success that 2042 was not. Publisher Electronic Arts has previously suggested a 2025 release for the next mainline installment. Now, insider Tom Henderson said the tentative launch window has been set for October 2025. The report also reveals that a free-to-play Battle Royale experience is being crafted by Ripple Effect Studios. It will be modeled after Call of Duty Warzone, which works in tandem with the premium yearly release of Call of Duty. 2 modes are currently in preparation, a classic Battle Royale affair and a gauntlet mode where teams of players are required to complete objectives. The team with the lowest score after an objective would be removed until only one is left standing. Beyond that, the next Battlefield is said to be set in the near future, so between the year 2025 and 2030. I would just say that's just modern time. The developers are attempting a return to the roots of the IP with 64-player matches. Battlefield 2042 attempted to double the max player count, and emphasis on physics-based destruction and traditional class system. So, yeah, just wanted to give you guys that little follow-up. We did talk a little bit about how there's a single-player portion to this Battlefield game that they're trying to do, and apparently it's not going too well, or at least they lost their director. But now we're getting new information from Tom Henderson that they are planning a battle. I feel like that's a little bit unnecessary, and it's like too late. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel like, I don't know. Do we really need another Battle Royale on the market? I don't think so. But I am interested to see how this new Battlefield game turns out. Is Vince Zampella still in on it? Yes, he is. To my understanding, he still is. Unknown, you're saying you think we do. Interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it has been a little while. Maybe if they try to do something interesting with it or just make it really high quality. Sure. Okay. Well, those are all the topics that I brought to the table for you guys today. What I'm going to do is actually finish what I was saying. I feel like I didn't get to my conclusion with what I was saying earlier about Sony's single player future. I think I got pretty close to it, but I just want to lay down my final thoughts here. So when it comes to Sony's single player future, I am still feeling very good about it. I'm still, generally speaking, feeling very good about PlayStation Studios. I think that mistakes were made. I think it's very obvious. I think that in terms of managing their money and their budgets, mistakes were made. Yeah, I gotta give you guys some reps too. That's true. That's true too. I think they made some mistakes in managing their budgets. I think Jim Ryan made a big mistake going in as aggressively as he did with live service. I think Sony is paying for that right now. I think their development timelines are paying for that. But I think that there's also a lot going on behind the scenes that has been going on behind the scenes for quite some time that we don't know about yet. And I think these are good things. I think when it comes to the single player side of it, Sony's going to get back on track really quick. And I am hopeful that like I said, I know I sound like a broken record here, but I am hopeful that they're going to have a showcase. They're going to show us those single player games. And going forward, I expect there to be a little bit more variety in all regards when it comes to their single player games. Not just massive tentpole AAA titles, but maybe some games that are a little bit below that, some in-between games, I think we're going to see that too. So I just wanted to make sure to give that conclusive thought there, because maybe I did say that, but just in case I forgot. But yeah, so we're done with all the topics here. You guys are saying that I owe you guys some reps. Oh, I don't know, man. Feeling pretty tired. I don't know if I'm going to do some reps. No, I'll do some reps before we close out the stream. Because we did hit a lot of members yesterday, and I didn't do any. But 100 reps. I'm not doing 100 reps, bro. I did forget to do the reps yesterday, yes. Corey, you're saying a full showcase would be great. I agree. Come on, Sony, make it happen. You want me to do 3 sets? All right, just give me a second here. Okay. I got to find some looking kind of flabby. You need the reps. Am I looking flabby? Looking flabby. I got to find the right track, though. Let's see. What should I play? Oh my God, that was playing the whole time in the background. That's awesome. That was playing the whole time in the background. All right, hold on. I'm just going to let that. Let's see. What I don't know what. Nah, I'm not feeling that one. Something heavier. I need something really fucking heavy, man. I'm in that mood. This one's pretty good though. Feeling it. All right. Oh shit! All right, here we go. Holy shit. Yeah, I brought the bench in today. Was I prepared for this? Yes, I was. Boss is pissed. Fucking, I got like multiple chairs back there blocking the door. But I went all in. I went all in because we hit 175 members yesterday. So, holy shit, though. That's the best Nick respawns I just got in here. What the fuck is going on? I'm gonna start streaming from my bench here, bro. And when we hit like certain numbers, I'm just gonna fucking like fall back and just start pumping. But lost about 100 viewers. It's expected. That's why I save it for the end of the stream. It's expected, bro. You're saying I supersetted like crazy. I'm gassed. I am, dude. That was a lot. I'm starting to sweat. I was gonna bring up my easy curl bar, but I'm gonna have to. I'm liable to really break something using that. Your workout is eating Burger King. That's awesome, bro. I guess that's a workout. Save it for next time. Well, now you know. Now you guys know. I got the bench up here now, so at this point you'd watch me cook a steak. Well, like I said, man, I'm trying to help inspire and motivate at least a little bit. I feel like, there's always been a little bit of a stigma to gaming or gamers or whatever, just kind of being out of shape, not being fit, or not exercising enough, not taking care of your health. I'm not perfect, of course, but gotta live up to the name, bro. Can't be calling myself muscle-bound gamer if I ain't muscle-bound. You want to see what I can bench? Yeah, I don't know at this point. God, I haven't, to be honest, man, I haven't done an actual, like, real bench press, like, with an Olympic bar or anything in a long time. I've just been working out at home. I don't have my 50-pound dumbbells in here anymore, though. I got to bring them back up. Got to bench the TV. Next time I'll try to make sure Boss is in here. Chris, you're saying, honestly, I haven't worked out in a month, making me realize I'm slacking. That's good, man. Yeah, I mean, try to do some exercise. It's good. Do I bench using dumbbells? Yeah, I mean, again, I do have like an easy curl bar, but I don't have a lot of plates for it. So I just stick with my 50-pound dumbbells. They work pretty good. Boss is the coach. Yeah, dude. That was fun, though. Let me see here. So we did finish all our topics today. I gave you guys the reps that I owed you for yesterday. And I think this might bring the stream to a conclusion. I do like those tracks, by the way. I thought they were pretty good. That one was pretty epic. The second one was pretty epic there. Am I ready for Rebirth? Yeah. Yeah, I got notified over the course of this stream that my copy of Rebirth shipped. So I'm ready, dude. Guys, it's just a matter of time until this room here is basically converted like halfway into just a gym. You thinking I should have music, like low volume music over my streams? I don't know though. I don't know that everybody enjoys that. I might just have to keep it reserved for these moments. Corey's like MGS theme, MGS theme. We'll do the MGS theme on the next stream. Just remind me, Corey. I'm sure you'll be here to remind me. Mini pull-up bar. Jay Shako, what is that? Oh, you got an MBG community Discord. Am I doing a members launch today? Not today, no. We'll do one on the next stream. Just mount a face cam to your head and work out the whole stream as you talk. It's a good idea in theory, but I won't be able to talk properly. I'll be too winded. Ah, yes. Shems, thank you for the reminder. I got to get a Helldivers 2 emoji and sound bites. Yeah, I could probably do both. I tried to keep good form that time, too. I hope you guys appreciated that. I was feeling the burn. Oh, man. I do want you guys to know as well that I did work out earlier today. So that was basically my second go. But all for the better. All for the better. Am I done with Helldivers 2? No, I'm still playing it. I'm still playing it. I just, again, once I start playing Final Fantasy, I'm probably gonna play it less. The dude, you're saying your form is better. You have good form on the bench too. Use the bench more. Yeah, we'll see what we can get done. It's the end of February. We're entering March, so we'll see how much progress I've made as we get closer to the end of the year. Merch coming soon. Merch is coming soon. Relatively soon. Yeah, Rise of the Ronins right around the corner. Dude, I saw somebody in my chat say their workout is Burger King. I see somebody else in the chat saying their workout is 5 donuts. I love donuts. I think donuts are like my favorite, but they are dude, donuts are so bad for you. Donuts are by far like the worst thing I think you can eat. Unfortunately. They taste so fucking good though. Did I see the Game Scent trailer? I didn't see the trailer, but I saw a post about it. Dude, donuts are deadly. Not even kidding. Straight up trans fat, man. Oh, I love them, but straight poison. You're literally eating donuts now. You know what the problem is with donuts too, man? Is you can't stop eating them. You can easily down like 4 donuts like it's nothing. That's what's scary about them. Corey, you're saying pizza? I'm addicted to pizza. Absolutely. I love pizza. Reverse draft says my days are numbered. Damn. Why is everything bad? Why everything bad is delicious? I mean, dude, that's a whole. It's not a conspiracy. I think some people think it is a conspiracy. It's legitimately not a conspiracy. It's just the the food industry preys upon the chemical makeup of our brains, and essentially it exploits it by just so like for example, when you like the way things work naturally is you have to work and put effort, like physical effort, to acquire sustenance naturally. So, like, if you were out there in the wild, like, you have to work to acquire sustenance, whether that's by hunting animals or, finding, like, for example, if you find, let's say you're living a totally natural lifestyle where that's actually how you acquire your food. If you come across honey, like you're active every day. Your body is active every day, all day for the sake of survival. You acquire honey. Honey is naturally sweet. It's like, very healthy for you too. Dude, your brain lights the fuck up with dopamine when you have honey because it's sugar. Your brain loves it. Your body likes it too. It's just the way we're wired, man. So what the food industry does is they just basically take that concept and they're like, what if we just put it in everything? Seriously, look at your food packages, man. You know what you'll find is that shit, almost every food package you have, if you're not consciously aware of what you're buying, has probably at least 2 to 3 to 4 teaspoons of sugar added to it. Not naturally occurring, added to it. And that's why. It's because sugar is addicting, dude. It's just as addicting as anything else. It's just as addicting as alcohol. It's just as addicting as drugs. It's just that it's so much more natural. Like our bodies are naturally attuned to it, where our bodies do crave sugar and it craves glucose. Your brain likes to operate. It prefers to operate on glucose. So it is very naturally occurring, a naturally occurring thing. But what is unnatural is the sheer amount of it. Like for example, if you are that hunter and you find that honey, you're not going to find that every day. You're not going to find so much honey that it's like, man, I'm going to be eating I'm going to be drinking honey daily. No, you would get sick, or your body would eventually get sick. It's interesting, man. It's interesting the way these industries, they exploit everything they can to get people addicted and to keep people buying. And so to answer your question, why is everything that's bad for you, why does it taste so good? It's because it's designed that way. The reason why it tastes so good is because your fucking brain is like, hell yeah, bro. Dopamine, baby. Let's go. This is amazing. Sugar is legal crack. Basically. I mean, it's a bit of an exaggeration, of course, but I mean, it's not as different. Unfortunately, it's not as different as you would think. New Soul 9 with a $5 super chat. You're saying, speaking about that, any of you guys went camping in the wild and hunted your own food or fish? It's very relaxing to be surrounded by nature. I can only speak for me. I'm not one with nature. I probably should try to be. It's funny I talk about like hunting and gathering your own food and shit. It's like I don't do that stuff, man. I definitely don't. Maybe one day I'll experience it. But I imagine it is pretty relaxing and also satisfying. See, here's what's important to understand. When it comes to dopamine in the brain, your brain is wired a specific way due to evolution, due to the way humans have evolved, where you need to go again. You have to have a certain level of friction. There has to be a certain level of work and effort that occurs before the dopamine. hits your brain, before the dopamine, release in your brain. And the problem with our society today, the problem with a lot of things in our society today, is you can get dopamine hits everywhere by doing nothing. You like just a couple of button clicks and dopamine. And in a way, that's, you talk about people who get addicted to video games. That's the danger of it, is video games, that's how they work. They give you dopamine release. But in this case, you're working in the game. It's like when you beat a Dark Souls boss, it's difficult, it's challenging, and to an extent, I guess it requires some type of work on a mental level, of course, hand-eye coordination. But your brain, like that dopamine rush that your brain gets, is literally no different. It's no different than if you were out in the wild, like basically trying to fucking hunt an animal, like a deer or something that you've been tracking to fucking secure your your food for the week. It's believe it or not, like on your brain, the way your brain works, it's pretty much on the same level. But the difference is, of course, like you're not out there running around fucking in the jungle or in the forest, I should say, not the jungle, trying to hunt that deer. You're saying I have literally tried to give people other options. They always pick the sweetest options. Dude, yeah, listen, man, here, you want to know the truth about excess sugar? Dude, excess sugar does the exact same thing to your body that excess alcohol does. Did you know that? Like, dude, that is mind-blowing. You can do the same exact, if not more damage to your liver by eating excess sugar. Like, I mean, large amounts of sugar, like being addicted to sugar. The same exact processes happen in your body that happen when you when you consume alcohol. And we know how damaging alcohol can be for you. Alcohol is very damaging, truthfully. Like, in moderation, it's okay. But alcohol in excess is very, very damaging for you. But that's the thing, is like, you know how that's kind of like universally understood? Like, oh, if I drink too much, it's bad for me. Like, it's like in some cases it's like really bad, or it can be really addicting and you can develop problems, right? Dude, sugar is the same way, and like no one fucking cares, or like it's just so normalized. It's like I just drink soda constantly. I just eat candy and sweets and pastries and shit constantly. It's like, dude, you are like, your body cannot metabolize that shit, dude. Like, it's damaging your liver, your organs. It's not good. And I'm guilty of it. Absolutely. I'm guilty of it. I'm upsetting sugar fanboys. Ghetto God, you're saying your dad died at age 49 from drinking himself to death? Yeah, I can relate. Unfortunately, I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke. I don't drink alcohol. The only time I've ever smoked is I've had, some cigars on occasion, but I stopped that as well. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do any kind of drugs. The most I've done recently is I maybe take some CBD oil on occasion. But to be honest, it doesn't really do much for me. Like, I've taken CBD oil and I'm like, I'm not feeling anything. I guess it's doing something, but New Soul, you're saying alcohol can be your friend after a breakup. It's a dangerous slope, bro. It's a dangerous slope. Yeah. Scary. But I guess the point I'm trying to get at, guys, is try to take care of yourselves. It's hard. It requires a lot of effort. I'm assuming most of us are not living in situations where we have to survive. Maybe you are. And try not to feel so bad about that. I know that that's a strange thing to say. Obviously, everybody wants comfort, but just know that the human race has has evolved over time based on surviving, based on having a level of friction there. And so I'm not saying like embrace it and be happy about it, but just know that it can serve a relatively healthy purpose, believe it or not. Because even if you are in a state of complete comfort and you have everything at your disposal, you have all the food you could ever want or need. You're taken care of. You will find that you're going to go out of your way to create a level of friction for yourself because it's just the way we're programmed, man. It's necessary, and I think it is evolutionary. But try to take care of yourself. Jack, you're saying the older you get, the less sweet stuff you seem to enjoy. Yeah, that's true too. I think like as we get older, we tend to gravitate towards more nutritious, like savory foods. Not all the time, but I've noticed that as well. I've absolutely noticed that. You know, God, no fucking way, bro, bruh. Big MP comes in and he's like, I'm liking this discussion, MBG. I'm liking this. I'm liking where you're taking this. Holy shit, he just dropped a 50 bomb. Yo, Big MP, I gotta ask. I know you're here. Were you here when I was working out? Is that why you dropped the 50 bomb? Were you here when I'm on my workout bench? Is that what did it? He just dropped a 50 bomb. Holy shit, bro. We were sitting at one member for this entire stream, and at the 3-hour mark, Big MP's like, yo, here's 50. Holy shit, he just dropped a 50 bomb yesterday, too. Holy shit. He's saying, no, I just got here. Listen, bro, do you see this? Big MP, do you see this? I legit brought up my workout bench. I did a full-blown fucking workout. I thought that's why you dropped that 50 bomb. That's funny. That's awesome. Dude, thank you so much, though, man. That's wild. That's wild. It's still going, bro. It's still going. You just crushed 2 goals in one fell swoop. Big MP, the legend returns, man. He dropped in yesterday. He was matching gifts, and today he did it again. I like to think Big MP was feeling inspired by our conversation. He's probably trying to strive to be healthier too, you know? Good shit, dude. Thank you so much. He's got to be the platinum leader now. Yeah, at this point for this week, yeah. I imagine so. Good shit, bro. I hope he's not expecting me to do more reps. But there you go, guys. Corey says I concede here. No, Corey, bro, you got to drop a 50 bomb too. Come on. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, that is truly unexpected, man. I after a day like yesterday, you guys showed awesome support, and so you know what? I did say I would do I will still do the MGS theme next time. I'll do the MGS theme next time. This is so strange. I'm not used to like receiving membership gifts like this after I already do the reps. It's my nervous system too, bro. I got to be careful not to overdo it. Jack, just so you know, we did cover that topic. My God, I'm still hearing the notification go off. That's crazy. That's going to be going off for like a couple more minutes, probably. Boss deserves treats. You know what? I'm gonna wait till the next stream to give him some treats. I think I gave him too many yesterday. He didn't have a bellyache or anything, but I definitely gave him too many. I gave him like triple, like 3 times the amount that I normally do, and he enjoyed himself. Trust me, but it's like, all right, you know, I'm over here talking about being healthy. Want to keep my cats as healthy as I can. He was very happy though. To be honest, I've never seen Boss that happy during a stream. I tried to show you guys. I couldn't move the camera, but he was so happy. He was lying down on his back in front of, like, right here on the desk, which he'd never done before. I'm like, holy shit. He's really he's really happy. I don't think I've ever seen him this happy. And Rich Rod 908 comes in. He's feeling inspired by Big MP's 50 bomb. He drops a membership gift for us. Rich Rod, my friend, thank you so much for that, dude. He brings us up to 52 members. That's I still can't believe we're at 52 members just like that. That's crazy. Thank you so much, Rich Rod. Got New Soul 9 saying, by the way, MBG, do you still have Dragon's Dogma 2 on your list? Absolutely. Yes. I definitely have Dragon's Dogma 2 on my list. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. Like, I want to buy both the same day, like at the same time, and I want to see if I can just juggle Rise of the Ronin and Dragon's Dogma 2. But I feel like I'm not going to be able to do that. I don't know. Do you guys play games like that at all? Like, do you guys ever play 2 big AAA story-driven games back to back at the same time? I feel like my brain can't process that properly. Like, I feel like my brain is just going to tell me, like, you're going to want to just lean towards one or the other. Like, one of them is going to win out, and then you're going to come back to the other once you scratch that one off your list. Titus, you're saying you have, but it's never that good. Yeah, God, I really wish these games were not coming out at the same time. To be honest, what I'm mostly concerned about is if I'm going to be finished with Rise of the Ronin, or sorry, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth before Rise of the Ronin and Dragon's Dogma 2 come out. I mean, look, I know that the past couple streams have been so focused on the future of Sony and their games and, you know, all this bad shit that's going on right now, but it's like, when I take a step back and think, well, what's my gaming life look like right now? It's like, damn, there's a lot to play, like an overwhelming amount, to be honest. Honestly, I'm just grateful that I was able to platinum Helldivers 2 before Final Fantasy dropped, because I was pretty nervous. Like, man, is Helldivers 2 going to be a game that I get kind of stuck on with the trophy hunting? Luckily not. So saying you would advise me to go slow and enjoy it. These games aren't coming that often. That's true, yeah. We do have a lot to play in a short period of time, but we also don't know how many lull periods there are going to be. That's a good point. Maybe there is no rush, because it's like, who knows, maybe April, May, June, July, August. Some of these months could be barren, potentially. Yeah, you know what? With that in mind, maybe I will slow my roll here. I don't know why that. I always feel like there's some kind of urgency for some reason. That's just who I am as a person. I don't know why that is. I always feel like there's just some sense of urgency, like there's some kind of rush. I blame growing up in America. Oh yeah, true. Stellar Blades in April. I blame growing up in America, dude. On the East Coast, there's like this kind of rush mentality. Like, got to be somewhere, got to do something, got to get it done now. Go, go, go. It's good sometimes. Other times, not so much. I got to embrace slow living. Let me go see if there's anything I'm missing. I like that some of you guys keep me informed during the streams, which is always helpful. So, here's a question I have for you guys. Do you think, Sony is obviously aware that they just took a big hit to their morale? Every development team, everybody at Sony, everybody at PlayStation, the morale is low. They're not feeling too good. Do you think Sony is going to try to do something relatively soon to kind of boost the morale of not only the teams, but the player bases as well? I don't know, because I was just kind of thinking about this. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, though. Maybe they can't do anything right now. You can see them doing state of play in March. Capcom versus SNK 3 will fix everything, in my opinion. State of play was a boost. Herman said more this year. SIE did London studio so dirty having Jim Ryan go there. Yeah, that was just depressing to see, man. I'll be honest. Like, people were circulating that, understandably so, where, like, Jim Ryan visited London studio for a farewell, and all the developers were standing with him, smiling for a picture, and just a couple days later, he made the announcement that their studio is shutting down and they're getting laid off. And people saying, like, bro, he knew. And it's like, yeah, that's just man, it's hard not to be judgmental in that case a little, you know what I mean? It's like, fuck, man, I don't, like, a part of me, like, wants to be like, nah, Jim Ryan didn't know, but it's like, no, he knew. Saying he's an absolute monster. I mean, I did say Jim Ryan seems like a shark to me, man, and maybe that's good in the business world, but I guess maybe it's just like, yeah, he just has that view of, like, it's fucking business. Sorry. Yeah, he definitely knew. Like, if I were in that position, I would opt to not go. You know what I mean? I just be like, I appreciate the farewell, but nah, I'm feeling a little under the weather. Whatever I'd have to say, I'd be like, I can't do that. I can't look these people in the eye, and knowing that, like, I know what's about to happen. Vince Virtually saying layoffs happen, sad, but let's move on. Well, yeah, I understand that too. Well, trust me, man. That's the way these things go. Like, it was a big deal yesterday. Maybe it's still part of the discussion today, but by early next week, dude, it's just not gonna. It's gonna be like nothing ever happened. Now, of course, not for the people affected, but generally speaking, that is just how these things go, dude. Can't really do anything about it. Well, guys, you're saying that people will move on too? Yeah, everybody will move on. Saying some people have visa problems, it's going to be a nightmare. Oh, yeah, that does sound super shitty. Well, obviously, I wish everybody the best of luck. Damn, Gavin's like, I blame Bungie. Well, guys, I definitely extended the stream more so than I expected to today. Corey says now the pizza prep begins. Yeah, I'm gonna bring the stream to an end here. Again, there's not gonna be a members lounge today. We're gonna do a members lounge on the next proper stream. So look forward to that. In the meantime, go check out the members lounge that we did yesterday. Definitely some interesting conversation there. Again, big shout out to Big MP dropping a 50 bomb. Good shit, dude. Thank you so much for that. And a couple of other gifters today. And shout out to everybody who dropped some super chats as well. I appreciate all the support you guys show. Means a lot. I like being able to do these streams. I like being able to talk gaming with you guys. I like being able to do the members lounge, and everything we do here on the channel is because of this community. You guys fund it. You guys power it. You guys make it possible. So thank you so much for that. And also want to make sure I give a shout out to Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for the streams. So if you're watching after the fact, make sure you utilize them. And if you see him in the comments, give him a big thank you. Corey's just giving us a little recap of the members lounge. It's so funny, dude. All right, yeah, I think that's gonna do it. So hit that like button on your way out, and I will catch everybody in the next proper stream. So take care of yourselves, and until the next time, guys, take care.